Yeah, we all knew it was the greatest cover-up. Our country's melting, and we the people ain't standing for it. Yeah, Trump won. Yeah, big tech pulling off collusion with the left. Talking about the biggest scandal for a president-elect. Got them Denny's in the Twitter staff out here playing chess. Heard about his laptop, they try to keep it out the press. What them people wanna see, them Twitter files. Can't cover it up, you stole the E, them Twitter files. Elon, you is a G, them Twitter files. Vijaya Gotti on trial for them Twitter files. This a message from America, we struggling to keep the peace. Biggest cover up in the world that we gon' ever see. Capitol Hill, it's time to practice what y'all really preach. Democrats and Twitter rats, you bout to get that boy impeached. Sleepy Joe and Jack Dorsey puppets, they irrelevant. The highest terror rate, but treat the people like we peasants. Kelly McEnany, press secretary, they took her off that blue bird for fighting for the president. And Jim Baker signed off from the FBI. And 46 is tired, so I'm rapping lullabies. The NY Post, they leaked the story and it went ghost. They suppress votes, they trying to steal the people's hope. Hey Elon, you is a G. You smelled the musk in the building, said Twitter free. Now the only thing left, let's make that logo red. 45, 47, that's my president. Yeah, big tech pulling off collusion with the left. Talking about the biggest scandal for a president-elect. Got them Denny's in the Twitter staff out here playing chess. Heard about his laptop, they try to keep it out the press. What them people wanna see, them Twitter files. Can't cover it up, you stole the E, them Twitter files. Elon, you is a G, them Twitter files. Vijaya Gotti on trial for them Twitter files. Yeah, it's the mayor of Magaville, baby. All my proud.
Alright, what up, y'all? I just felt like doing this replay of the NBC Donald Trump thing because it is being hit out the algorithm, so I do want to, you know, replay this for the playback and maybe chime in on some parts. But for those who don't know, hey, Clip Corleone, salute, fool. That's my bro. I made a video just recently showing, and we about to pull this up. Not the video, but we about to pull up this interview real quick. But a video showing that Donald Trump went on Megyn Kelly and was talking about, you know, the whole vax and everything like that. Everything he said in this shit, I've been saying for like 4 years. basically what he did was wanted them to focus on, because he can't say too much. He's been deplatformed. He's been, censored and shit like that. So he kind of understand the game now. So, you can't say everything, but you got to say enough to where the people who understand. And he kept pointing to the fact that they was planning on a 10-year pandemic. Didn't I tell y'all this from the jump? Everybody who worried about these vax, who cares? Let whoever, this is why I like the fact that he said they wasn't mandated. Let whoever wants that shit, who's going to call me a super spreader, who's going to, call me a bigot for not getting it. I don't care about them. Let them get their shit, okay? But at the same time, the people who don't want to get it, you don't have to get it. But then at the end of the day, we not going to go through a 10-year pandemic. Why you think they talking about another one now? Because that plan was crushed by them jabs, all right? So, yeah, y'all check out that video. We really go in depth about that. And let's pull this up real quick. All right? Y'all sometimes got to understand the political warfare game, man. I think that some people just don't get it. But, yeah, here we go to NBC Donald Trump interview right now.
President Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
I want to dive right into this, a lot to get to.
Good.
There are a number of things that make your campaign unprecedented. You are the first former president to run for re-election in more than 100 years. You are facing 4 indictments. You have an incredibly significant lead in the GOP primary polls. But I want to ask you this, Mr. President. Why do you want to be president again?
Well, it's a very simple answer, and I can give it very easily. It's called Make America Great Again. Our country is in serious trouble. I don't think we've ever been so low in terms of certainly opinion, world opinion, and country opinion. People are devastated. They look at what's happening with millions of people coming in, millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country, flooding our cities, flooding the countryside. I think the number is going to be 15 million people by the time you end this. By the end of this year, I think the real number is going to be 15 million people. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions, insane asylums. They say, sir, please don't use that term, but it's true. They're terrorists at a level. It was very interesting. On NBC, I saw a poll, and I saw some statistics, and it said in 2019, there were no terrorists. They caught no terrorists. There was nothing that they saw. There was no anything. And now, this year, it's a record number like they've never seen before. So we did a great job at the border. We did a great job with the military. We did a great job with inflation. We had essentially no inflation. We had a great economy. And we didn't have an Afghanistan disaster. We were getting out, but we were going to get out with dignity and pride, not the way they got out. That was a surrender and an embarrassment and horrible. We gave $85 billion worth of equipment to the Taliban. We had death, so much death and so much horrible destruction. And it was a terrible thing. I think it was the lowest point in the history of our country. Now, with all of that, we can change it and we can make America great again. And that's why I'm doing this.
Well, and you have talked about a lot. We are going to delve into a number of the issues you brought up. You talked about all the people coming across the border. Of course, a lot of families also coming across the border as well. I want to talk to you about that a little bit later on. But first, let's talk about the breaking news today. We learned just a short time ago that the president's son, Hunter Biden, was indicted by a federal grand jury on 3 gun charges. Given that, Mr. President, can you continue to say that there are 2 systems of justice?
Well, I think there's no question about it. He had a plea deal that was the deal of the century, the art of the deal. You could.
Now, real quick, don't let them fool y'all to where, we going after Hunter Biden. So now do you say there's 2 tier? Like, it's almost like because we say that, they trying to, put an end to that by saying, all right, let's just go after the Bidens. The Bidens have run their course. They already too much corruption. If the Democrats were smart, they'd get rid of them. So that's all that is. But that don't take away from the fact that you took down many channels, including my first one, over the Hunter Biden laptop. Yes, there's 2-tier justice system. Just because y'all are snakes and you'll turn in one of your own to save your own ass, that don't mean there wasn't 2-tier justice. Y'all just know these Bidens are getting caught corruption after corruption, so now it's time to throw them in the motherfucking dirt. We get what it is. Stop playing.
Write a book on it, The Art of the Deal. And all of a sudden that was broken up by a judge who was able to, a brilliant judge actually, who was able to see through what was happening. And it's a sad situation. I mean, nobody should be happy about this. I'm not happy about it. Nobody is. It's a very sad thing. It's so bad for our country. But, you know, if you think about it, I've been under investigation from the day I came down the escalator, and a phony investigation, fake investigations, investigations that I beat every single time, still under investigations.
There's some things that go better together.
Hold up.
Like your
hold
workplace
up.
benefits and retirement savings.
For this stupid
With
ass
Voya,
ad.
considering all your financial choices together.
Yeah, they was doing too much.
From unexpected events.
Voya, well planned, well invested, well protected.
Shut up.
But it's a very sad thing, and it's a slippery slope.
But Mr.
And
Biden-
dangerous, very dangerous for our country.
But you talked about the plea deal, but now Hunter Biden's been indicted. He's facing
Yeah,
very
sure.
serious charges. So doesn't
Finally.
that undercut your entire argument
What?
that there are two systems of justice?
No.
In
Well,
this
look,
country?
it's one of 12 charges. There are 12 possible charges.
And he's
this
still
is
under
the only charge
investigation.
that doesn't affect his father.
Well, he's still under investigation.
Well, sure, maybe. I mean, let's see what happens. But this is the only charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden. This was the gun charge. But gun charges are very serious. You know, people have had gun charges and gone to jail for a lot of years.
He just cooked her so fast. Look, this is the only charge y'all putting on him that don't affect Joe Biden, about how he lied about knowing that his son was on that board, you know, with the Ukrainians and all that other type of stuff. The gun charges, that's just Hunter Biden. All right? Look how cold Donald Trump is.
Years. I pardoned some people who I thought it was just horrible what happened, but they were put in jail for many, many years, rappers and others. So, look, it's a bad thing, but it's one of 12, and it's the one charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden.
Well, and of course, there's no evidence that the president has any link to his son's business dealings. Let me ask you, though.
Well, I don't
Lies.
necessarily
Well, there's
agree. He called in. You mean he called in all these meetings? He was calling in on the meetings. He was put on speakerphone and every single day, and
The witness who
literally
testified.
many, many calls. And what about the fact that he got rid of the prosecutor for $1 billion?
Well,
He
the
said,
witness
you
who
don't get
testified-
rid of this prosecutor, we're not giving you $1 billion to Ukraine. He said that.
For people who don't know, Joe Biden, there was an investigator looking into Hunter Biden's dealings with the Ukraine and all that. And Joe Biden said, you know how they give them money all the time and shit, sending all this money to them? He said, I'm not sending you shit unless you fire that guy. Joe Biden said this live. Okay? This ain't no fucking conspiracy theory.
I mean, there are a lot of things here.
Mr. President, the witness who testified, though, said that he never heard any discussion of business when President Biden was put on the
Well,
phone.
wait a
But
minute. You saw the prosecutor
talk
thing on
about-
television, because I saw it on your network. He said, you don't get rid of this prosecutor, I'm not giving $1 billion.
That was looked into as well, and as you know, there was
Oh, come
never
on.
any wrongdoing.
If I ever said
move on.
that, quid pro quo.
Let's move on to what a second.
Yeah, let's move
Trump
on.
team would look.
Sure.
When you launched your campaign in March, you told the crowd, quote, I am your retribution. What does that mean? What does that look like?
I think retribution is talking in terms of I have to protect people. What they're doing to people is so horrible. They're putting people in jail for long periods of time. Firemen, policemen, accountants, even lawyers. They're in prisons for years now and don't even have trials in some cases. And if you look at Antifa and other groups, practically nothing happened to them. They burned down Portland. They burned down Minneapolis. They took over Seattle. I mean, they literally took over a big chunk of the city. People died and nothing happened to them. We have to protect all people.
But when you talk about retribution, are you talking about directing your attorney general to try to go after your political enemies?
When I talk about retribution, I'm talking about fairness. We have to treat people fairly. These people on January 6th,
Exactly.
some of them never even went into the building, and they're being given sentences of, many years.
Are you going to pardon
And nothing
those
is
people who've been
happening.
convicted?
Well, I'm going to look at them, and I certainly might if I think it's appropriate. No, it's a very, very sad thing, and they're dividing the country so badly, and it's very dangerous.
Well, Mr. President, we're going to delve into that a little bit later on, but I want to stay on this idea of what you mean by retribution. Are you looking to appoint an attorney general who will prosecute the people you tell them to prosecute?
I'm looking to appoint an attorney general who's going to be tough on crime and fair. Very simple.
And go after your political enemies.
Right.
No, I would never do that. But Biden has done that. Look,
Look how she said that. Tara Payne, what up? Look how she knows that the Biden's been going at the whole justice system, been unleashed like fucking coyotes on Donald Trump to go after him. But she's so worried about if he getting president, is he gonna go after the corrupt ass Joe Biden family? You got some nerve.
Biden, these aren't indictments against me. These are Biden indictments. This is
Right.
God coming down and very fairly said, Joe, you spoke badly about an election. The election was rigged. There's no question about that. There's so much proof on it. Even if you go to the more modern day proof with the, they call it Twitter files, FBI and Twitter, or you take a look at the Amazon stuff or the Google stuff, or you take a look at 2000 Mules, you take a look at all of the ballot stuffing that's on tape. You take a look at the fact that the legislatures didn't approve a lot of the things that were done in the elections and they had to approve. And we could
Y'all look into all this shit, dude. They definitely rigged that election.
go on forever. We could go on forever. But no, I want somebody that's going to be strong, respected, tough, and fair.
Just to go back to a couple of the points you said, the ballot stuffing, that's something that's been debunked.
It hasn't been
As you
debunked.
know,
It's on camera.
But I do want to keep moving forward.
Yeah,
And
but
of
Kristen,
course,
it's on camera. Hundreds and even thousands and thousands of people. You take a look. True the vote. Take a look. It's on camera.
But Mr. President,
they have
you know,
thousands of
Republican
pictures.
officials
But
and
I know,
top
but
law
Kristen, you can't say
enforcement officials have
they have
told you that
thousands
that's
of pictures of
debunked.
people. I know you have to say that for your network, but you should
Right.
because that's the problem.
But Mr.
The
President, that's
news
the
has
truth,
lost
and you've been
such
told that.
power.
Let's stay on track, though, Mr. President. Let's
But
stay
no,
on
but
track.
you're
with
saying
this.
That's what she like to do. Oh, that's debunked, but let's move on. Nah, tell me why it's debunked.
it hasn't. We have thousands of essentially motion pictures of people stuffing the ballot boxes.
But Mr. President,
Tens of thousands.
they're not stuffing the ballot boxes.
And the judges, they didn't see them cases like that. The judges threw them out because the people didn't have no standing in the court. They didn't even look at the shit.
And you've been told that by your top law enforcement officials. But let's stay on track because we have so much ground to cover.
You have
We
people that went
policy ground
and voted
to cover,
in one
Mr.
place,
President.
another place, as many as I understand, 28 different places in one day with 7, 8, 9 ballots apiece. They can't do anymore because it would look too phony. These were professional people. They were stuffing the ballot boxes. It's there.
Mr.
I mean, it's there
You
to
took
see.
your
A lot of
case
people
to
don't
court,
like looking at
60
it.
different cases all across the country. You lost that, but let's stay on track.
We
because
lost
have
because the
so
judges
many-
didn't want to hear them.
Mr. President,
But
we have
if
so
this,
many
if
topics
this
to
were
cover.
ever before a court, we would win so easy. There is so much evidence that the election was rigged. And you may not even put the section on your show, and you'll have to decide what you want to do. But people know it was rigged. Look, the media,
Mr. President,
when I
there's
first
no
got
evidence
involved
of
in
that.
politics,
As you know, there's no evidence of that. We have so many different topics. to get
tremendous
to.
evidence.
I want to talk about what a
Listen, let me ask you this.
Mr.
You agree
President-
there was Twitter files, right?
Mr. President,
You agree there were 51 intelligence agents that lied. You agree with
I'm
that?
not the one who's being interviewed. Let's
no,
stay
but-
on track
I know,
because
but
I want to talk about
that's rigging the
policy,
election.
because that's what voters want to hear about, Mr. President. Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill
Go ahead.
right now.
Go
Speaker
ahead.
McCarthy announced that he was launching an impeachment inquiry this week into President Biden. Do you see this as a part of the retribution that you seek?
No, not at all. I think, look, you look at the terrible things that have been happening with respect to Biden. Look at everything. Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, who are fantastic people and very legitimate people. I watched Jamie Comer just a little while ago talking about a lot of different facets of what's going on. And he was the one that said, I guess there are 12 things where it looks like it's stone cold guilty.
No, they're saying like, oh, Joe Biden, is this indictment your little revenge or something like that? Dude, a lot of the times they was trying to impeach Donald Trump, they figured out that what he was being impeached on grounds of was a total lie paid for by Hillary Clinton. In case people don't know what that means, that's that Russian bullshit. If you ever heard some idiot on the street say, oh, Trump's a Russian spy, that shit was paid for by Hillary Clinton to stop whatever, to combat whatever was going on with her emails that is so egregious, I can't even talk about it or I'm going to get censored.
And the gun charge is only one of the 12. He said this is the only one that doesn't implicate Joe Biden.
So, but My question for you, did you talk to Speaker McCarthy about this House impeachment
No,
inquiry?
no,
Did
I don't
you
talk to him.
tell him that he should open a House
No,
impeachment
no, I don't do
inquiry?
that. I don't think he'd do that. I mean, he wouldn't do it based on me, no.
Did you
Not
talk to your Republican allies on Capitol Hill and say you should support this?
No, I don't have to talk. They're more proactive than I am. They think it's terrible. I will say this, they think I was treated very unfairly. I mean, when I was impeached for a perfect phone call, and now it turned out to be perfect, I hope you will admit that at least, because I was right, 100% right. But I was impeached for a perfect phone call. And how sad that is. And
he's talking about that phone call to the Ukrainian dude. But again, another thing too is there's this big fake story going around that he's Putin's best friend. People don't even remember when Putin was threatening to go into the Ukraine under Trump. Trump threatened him, and Putin said, I got the button. I got the red button. And Trump told him, my button is worse than yours, just so you know. Threatened to blow his shit up. All right, so there's a lot of misconceptions about this that's finally coming out.
we had 196-0 vote for Republicans. Very unusual for the Republican Party. I was so proud of them. 196, the entire House, not one person dissented. And then other than Romney, who sort of gave me half a vote, but we had 100% in the Senate. People think I was treated very unfairly.
Well, the people who
And I know I was treated.
The people who
very
voted for that impeachment say that the phone call that you referenced was about a quid pro quo.
It was perfect.
But
my phone call was perfect. My phone call was saying, please investigate any crimes that you see. And by the way, I'm mandated to do that as the president of the United States.
That's why they were so mad, because if they go and investigate some crimes they see, they're going to find some shit on the Bidens. Does that make sense?
And it was really a call to congratulate him on winning the election. But
Mr. President, let's...
No, when you talk about quid pro quo, please don't talk about quid pro quo, because there was none in the call at all. Where there's
That
a
was
quid
the
pro,
heart of what
where
I'm
there
saying
is
is
a
that was the
quid
heart
pro
of
quo
that impeachment.
was when Biden said very strongly, we're not going to give them the $1 billion unless they get rid of the prosecutor. That's a quid pro quo.
Mr. President, let me take a step back here, because a lot of voters say what they want to talk about right now is your vision for the future.
Sure.
And I've been traveling to a lot of the early voting states, and they say that your focus on the past is a problem for them. What do you say to those voters?
I have no focus on the past, except that you have to learn from history. You have to learn from the past. We had an election that was very, very terrible. It was a terrible thing for our country. And you have to learn from that. You can't forget that and just go. Now, with all of the things that we said, I had the best economy maybe in history.
We're going to talk about it next.
Right.
So let's stay
I
on
had the
track
best
with it.
economy in history, and I'm going to do it again. I had the best energy. We were energy independent, soon to be energy dominant. Now we're begging for energy. I mean, what they've done to this country, they're destroying our country.
We're going to talk about the economy in just a minute. But before we move on from Capitol Hill, do you think Republican hardliners should abandon their threat to shut down the government over their spending priorities now that there is this impeachment?
No, I think if they don't get a fair deal, we have to save our country. We have $35 trillion in debt. We have to save our country.
So you would shut down the government? You'd support that?
I'd shut down the government if they can't make an appropriate deal, absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about the economy. And I want to start by talking about this big standoff between the auto workers and the big three auto manufacturers. My question for you, Mr. President, whose side are you on in this?
I'm on the side of making our country great. The auto workers are not going to have any jobs when you come right down to it, because if you take a look at what they're doing with electric cars are going to be made in China. The auto workers are not going to have any. I'll tell you what, the auto workers are being sold down the river by their leadership, and their leadership should endorse Trump. The reason is, you got to have choice. Like in school, I want school choice. I also want choice for cars. If somebody wants gasoline, if somebody wants all electric, they can do whatever they want. But they're destroying the consumer, and they're destroying the auto workers. The auto workers will not have any jobs, Kristen, because all of these cars are going to be made in China. The electric cars automatically are going to be made in China.
So let's talk about UAW's leadership. The president.
And just so people know, some people who don't understand this type of stuff, they think, oh, Trump is trying his hardest to convince her. He knows this lady knows everything he's talking about. She's a part of the propaganda machine on NBC and all that. He's got to put that out there for their audience, though. He's not talking to this bitch. He's talking to y'all.
President Sean Fain has withheld his endorsement of President Biden. But this is what he had to say about you. Quote, another Donald Trump presidency would be a disaster. How would you win that endorsement?
Well, if that's the case, I probably won't win his. I don't know the gentleman, but I know his name very well.
And look at her eyes real quick. She looks like a freaking demon. Look at this. Look at her eyes. She's looking right through him. That is literally dude, they got her. She did a ritual before this. Like, holy shit.
Well, if that's the
Look at
case,
this.
I probably won't win his.
A
I don't know
robot.
the gentleman, but I know his name very well. And I think he's not doing a good job in representing his union, because he's not going to have a union in 3 years from now. Those jobs are all going to be gone because all of those electric cars are going to be made in China. That's what's happening. Number one. Number two, the electric cars are much more expensive and they don't go far enough. So if somebody wants to take a little bit of a long, just like the trucks, if somebody wants to take a little bit of a long ride, let's go to Maine or let's go to Kentucky from New York. You can't do it. I mean, you have to stop all the time. They don't go far enough. They're very expensive. They have a lot of drawbacks. Now, with that being said, some people are going to want them. Some people are going to travel short distances. What they're doing with our trucking industry is a disaster because they want all electric trucks. And a truck on with a large tank, large gasoline or diesel capacity can go up to 2,000 miles. An electric truck goes 300 miles. So what are these guys going to do? They're going to stop every 300 miles and recharge their truck and spend 3 hours?
Let's move on and talk about another big picture issue when it comes to the economy. The issue of interest rates, inflation, something that you've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve is obviously independent, but I wonder, Mr. President, if you are re-elected, would you direct your Federal Reserve chair to lower interest rates?
You better call him Mr. President.
Well, you know that I put a lot of pressure on him. It was outside pressure because nobody knows whether or not you can really do that. But I did because I thought his interest rates were too high, and he ultimately dropped his interest rates. The same gentleman, as you know. But it was a lot of pressure. I mean, I was very active on that. Right now, interest rates are very high. They're too high. People can't buy homes. They can't do anything. I mean, they can't borrow money. The banks don't have the money. The banks aren't lending the money. The banks, by the way, Chase Manhattan Bank, Bank of America, they discriminate against conservatives. It's a disgrace, and they shouldn't be allowed to. And I'm going to do something about that. But you take a look at banks throughout the country, and I think because of the regulators, but you take a look at Bank of America and Chase, they discriminate against conservatives and Republicans.
Can y'all remember my Chase videos that had something to do with Ocean Gate and all that? I'm gonna have to clip this up so I can use it for a new harvesting video that I'm doing where, you know, J.P. Morgan, Chase, and all them got caught up in some scandals now. Salute to Trump.
We'll give you plenty of evidence.
Okay, all right. Well, let's stay on track with this question, though. So just to be very clear, if you were reelected, would you direct your Fed chair to lower interest rates?
It depends. It depends.
You
Depends
might.
where inflation is. But I would get inflation down because drill we must. We will be drilling for oil. We are going to become, again, energy independent. We are going to reduce our debt because we're also going to become energy dominant. You know, we were ready to go dominant within a matter of months. We would have been making so much money. We have more oil, I call it liquid gold, under our feet than any other country, Saudi Arabia, Russia. And there's no country with more, and it's sweet. It's the finest. We have the best. You know, we're taking it from Venezuela. You know what it is? Tar. It's the worst.
Mr. President, are you going to appoint a new Fed chair if you're reelected?
Well, I guess he would have 2 years left or something like that. So we'll see. But,
Okay. All right.
you know the word jawboning? I did a lot of jawboning against him. And he ultimately lowered interest rates. We had low interest rates. We had the best housing market ever. We had people buying homes. Today, people can't buy homes.
Economists are looking at some of the figures right now. The fact that the unemployment rate is at 3.8%. And they say it looks like the U.S. may not dip into a recession. What do you make of that assessment?
Oh, I don't know. People are going to, they say that, and then you end up in a depression. They say you're going to do great. You end up bad. You say, and the opposite. Most of them don't know what they're doing. It's a touch. It's a feel. And I predicted a lot of markets. I predicted a lot of things, frankly. You know, they say Trump was right about everything. I think that the way it's going now, you're going to have to, things are not going right now very well for the consumer. Bacon is up 5 times. Food is up horribly, worse than energy. Energy is starting to go up at a level that we haven't seen in a long time, meaning a couple of years since he took over, because I had energy prices very low. I had gasoline very low. We have to get the energy down, which they will never do. And they kept it artificial because they took the strategic reserves, which I had a lot to do with filling up for the first time ever. They took these strategic reserves and he issued it to everybody so that he could keep the gas prices down. Now, strategic reserves are at the lowest level they've ever been at, and we need that for war.
And there are a lot of factors that have contributed to that.
Well, no, the big factor is the fact that he took that oil.
Let's talk about taxes. He took that and he wanted to have low gas prices for an election. And now we have nothing left. Mr. President, there are a lot of factors, including global factors, that went into that. Let's talk about taxes, though.
I don't know why people...
Look, she wants to talk about global warming, why we don't drill our own, so-called don't drill our own oil and shit like that, and why Joe Biden is cutting all these pipelines. They always blame this high gas emission bullshit. This shit is destroying the fucking planet, so everybody don't worry about it. We'll find something to do with it. But we don't want you guys to want to use it.
Stick up for him so much when he makes bad decisions like you. I don't know why, and I have a lot of respect for you, and you were very fair in the debate, but I don't know why you and other people say, oh, it's okay that he destroyed the strategic petroleum reserves. I mean, why do you do that? Or it's okay that he has open borders. Somebody was in your position, not quite as good, said this morning, oh, having open borders is a wonderful thing.
Right, having open borders, my ass. No, and salute to Troy Murphy in the chat. Yeah, I really don't put too much investment in thinking that these politicians and shit are, trustworthy or none. I don't think they are, but I just think it's interesting watching a dude like Donald Trump go at them and be, in some type of political war against them. It is fun to watch. Like it's like finally somebody, but yeah, it's gonna be hard to, if they don't do nothing about that 2020 election, I don't see what's gonna change about this one unless the conservatives just get fed up and start dropping shit. You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be a civil war if something like that happens again. So if the deep state is smart, they let Trump win, to calm down the people, and then the next election they'll try their hand at it. That's the way I can see it going. But if they rig this next one, there's going to be a lot of shit storms in this country.
I don't know why, and I think that's why the media has lost so much credibility.
Mr. President, we're just having a conversation. Let me talk to you about taxes and your differences with President Biden over taxes.
Sure.
He wants to raise corporate tax rates to 28%. It's reported you want to lower them to 15%. Is that true?
I'd like to lower them a little bit if we could, but what I want to do is we have to get some income coming in. When I lowered taxes, we took in more revenue.
To 15%, Mr.
You know
President?
that it depends on where we are at the time. A lot happens in a year. But when I lowered taxes, I cut taxes tremendously, created tremendous jobs. But more importantly, we had more revenue with lower taxes than we did with higher taxes.
You also added $8 trillion to the national debt. Your GOP challenger, Nikki Haley, made that point, saying, quote, the truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Republicans did this to us. Does she have a point?
We had a thing happen to us. We had the greatest economy in history, and then we got hit with COVID. And we had to keep this beautiful thing going. And if I didn't do that, if we didn't put some money in, nobody knew what COVID was. Remember, this was a new thing that came in. Somebody said it's dust coming in from China. It came from China. They tried and denied it, or they tried for a little while, and we didn't let it. It came from Wuhan, actually, which now they agree. Everybody's now agreeing that it came from Wuhan. I said that years ago. But we had to do things that were very severe. We had to let some money come out. We were on the verge of doing something that was amazing. We were going to have energy at a level bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined. That energy was going to be sold to Europe and all other places. The prices would have come down. We were going to make a fortune, and we were going to...
And then when they hit that COVID shit, guess what? They was planning on keeping us under this whole little lockdown bullshit for like 10 years, Joe Biden said. He said, we're not going to find a cure or a vax for this for 10 years. Translation, we're about to lock y'all ass down for 10 years. All right?
start paying off debt. Instead, we got hit with COVID. People didn't need oil because nobody was driving all over the world. I mean, frankly, it was a disaster. What China did to the world with COVID is something that we're going to get to the bottom of, and they have to pay something back. You know, nobody can pay back the cost of all those lives and all the money that was lost, but nobody can pay back the lives and all of the damage that was caused,
but
including China. But you know what? They have to pay something back.
To Nikki Haley's key argument, though. What do you say to her?
What does Nikki Haley know? I mean, I know Nikki Haley very well. She said, I'm the greatest president. She left, she said, I'm the greatest president. Now she's running for office and she says something. Look, Nikki Haley doesn't know anything about it. She's a politician.
Nikki Haley supports the war in Ukraine. That's all you need to know about her.
She knows nothing about it. Very nice woman. Well, some people like that, I would say. But she left office. She said very strongly, I will never run. He was a great president. And then in some cases said the greatest president in my lifetime. In one case said the greatest president ever. Now she's running. Nikki Haley has nothing to do with this. We were going to make a fortune off our energy. We were going to send the energy to Europe. Europe was going to pay us tremendous amounts of money. And I'll tell you, you would have never had the Ukraine monster at all. It would have never happened. Russia would have never got, just by sheer force of personality. But beyond personality, what happened is when oil hit $100 a barrel, and by the way, it's right there right now again, Putin makes a fortune on this war. You know, everybody said, oh, he can't afford it. If Biden allowed my policies to stay in place, oil would right now be at $40 a barrel, and Putin wouldn't be able to afford the war.
We are going to get to the war in Ukraine, but first I do want to talk about the issue of abortion, which is important to a lot of voters all across the country.
Here we
Just
go.
this week, women in Idaho and Tennessee, I don't know if you saw this, filed suit against their state saying their lives were put at risk after they were denied abortion services because their state's restrictive laws put in place after Roe was overturned. So my question for you, Mr. President, is how is it acceptable in America that women's lives are at risk, doctors are being forced to turn away patients in need?
This same lady can't even define what a woman is.
Or risk breaking the law?
Ready?
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do what.
You got people that can't define what women are, worried about women's rights, supposedly.
Bit of a long answer. I hope you have time.
I hope you have time. I'm here for as long as you have.
So you have Roe v. Wade. For 52 years, people, including Democrats, wanted it to go back to states so that states could make the right. Roe v. Wade, I did something that nobody thought was possible, and Roe v. Wade was terminated, was put back to the states. Now, people, pro-lifers, have the right to negotiate for the first time. They had no rights at all. Because the radical people on this are really the people, the Democrats.
And look, if there's somebody that life is at risk, listen, if you don't get a so-called abortion or whatever, that you're going to die, okay, whatever. That's your body, you whatever. But don't let whores off the street who just want to, party and all that type of shit have the same so-called, privilege or whatever they want to call it, a privilege. I don't know what it is, but they can't sit there and claim the same, circumstances that a person that's actually going to die, because these Democrats do that. They say, well, what about people that's going to die if they don't have an abortion? Well, okay, then let them do that. But don't even that out across the whole fucking board so you create a horror culture of people that just want to go party and all that shit and drop their babies off at the Joe Biden factory, okay?
Let's say after 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and even after birth, you're allowed to terminate the baby.
Democrats aren't saying that. I just have to. Democrats are not saying that.
Of course
That's
they do.
not true.
You have a Virginia governor,
oh yes,
previous
they are,
governor, who said after the baby is born, you will make a determination, and if you want, you will kill that baby. The baby is now born.
Democrats writ large are not talking about that. Only 1% of late-term abortions happen, always in the state of.
We know what 1% means, slippery, slopey. Okay, that's gonna turn into 2, then 4, then 8. We know how y'all work. You get in the door, then you start working on it. Okay, slippy slope.
They are the radical people because nobody wants to see abortion after 5 months and 6 months and 7 months. And now it gave people that believe in pro-life, look, just so you understand, it's pretty much 50-50. It's a 50-50 issue. Amazing. If you look at the charts, it's been 49-51. It's been like that for many years. Goes both ways. 51, both ways. Ready? I was able to do something which gave at least pro-life people a voice. Now it's going to work out. Now the number of months will be determined.
Can you
and you're
answer
going to have
this
something where
question?
everybody comes together.
Does it bother you, though, that women say their lives are being put at risk? Do you feel you bear any responsibility? Because, as you say, you are responsible.
What's going to happen, this is an issue that's been going on for a long time, and it's a very polarizing issue.
He just said you'll be able to negotiate. If you really got them type of complications, you might be able to negotiate that. But if you're just a whore, doesn't want kids, and you can't stop doing what you're doing on the street, you might not have them fucking privilege or whatever you want to call it.
Because of what?
Listen, robot.
Because of the fact we brought it back to the states, we're going to have people come together on this issue. They're going to determine the time, because nobody wants to see
Stupid
5,
ass.
6, 7, 8, 9 months. Nobody wants to see
This lady, this robot lady that got them piercing eyes that never blink, she don't want to hear that. She wants to hear that everybody could just dump their fetuses off at the thing. And I got to be careful about this type of stuff. But you know how they do it with the AC and all that type of stuff. Anybody who knows what that means knows what that means. You know.
abortions when you have a baby in the womb. I said with Hillary Clinton when we had the debate, I made a statement, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month. You're allowed to do that, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Again, no one
and
is
again,
arguing
listen,
for that. That's
look,
not a part of anyone's platform, Mr.
The
President.
Democrats are able to kill the baby after birth.
Let me talk to you.
Nobody wants that.
Democrats don't want that
So
either.
we're
But
gonna come together.
I want to know what you want. I want to know what you're going to do if you're
We are
reelected.
going to come
Would you sign
together.
federal legislation that would ban abortion at 15 weeks?
No, let me just tell you what I do. I'm going to come together with all groups, and we're going to have something that's acceptable. Right now, to my way of thinking, the Democrats are the radicals, because after 4 and 5 and 6 months, but you have to say this, after birth. You have New York State and other places that pass legislation where you're allowed to kill the baby after birth.
Mr. President, I want to give voters who are going to be weighing in on this election a very clear sense of where you stand on
I think they're all going to like me. I think both sides are going to like me.
What's
going to have to happen is you're going to have to,
listen,
you're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or months. You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy, because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15
Are you
weeks?
talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks?
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something.
And look, for the people that's like, man, he should just say he's against it all and all this other type of shit, let this man play the political game. Because if he says something they absolutely don't want to hear, they're going to assassinate him, all right? Cat's out the bag, okay? He's trying not to get assassinated by these freaks, all right? Jesus Christ.
We'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that
I
goes
think what
too
he
far?
did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake. But we'll come up with a number. But at the same time, Democrats won't be able to go out in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months and allow an abortion. And Kristen, you have to look at this because you said no. You have some states that are allowed to kill the child after birth, and you can't allow that.
Yeah, look at
Mr.
it.
President, again, no one is calling for a child to be killed after birth. No one's calling for that.
But you
to
have
be allowed.
legislation.
But let me just ask
Kristen,
you.
you have legislation in certain states where it's allowed.
Mr. President.
The governor of Virginia, previous governor, who was a whack job, I call him the Michael Jackson governor.
No one's talking
that
about
governor,
their platform. I want to know what you
that
want.
governor said you can kill the baby after birth.
But Mr. President, this is about what you would do if you were reelected. As you know, you upset
We
some
will agree to a number of weeks, which will be where both sides will be happy. We have to bring the country together on this issue.
Mr. President, when you talk about negotiating, I think a lot of people think to themselves, this is an issue that they care about
I care
deeply
about it
in
too.
their hearts.
Oh, I care
and
about
they
it
know
too.
where they stand, and they want to know where you stand. As you know, some anti-abortion groups are really looking for some clarity from you. So let me just ask you to put a fine point on this. Should the federal government impose any abortion restrictions, or should it be completely left up to the states?
No, I don't think you should have. I don't think you should be allowed to have abortions well into a pregnancy.
But what about the question I just asked you?
We're going to agree to a number of weeks or months or however you want to define it, and both sides are going to come together, and both sides, and this is a big statement, both sides will come together, and for the first time in 52 years, you'll have an issue that we can put behind us.
At the federal level?
It could be state or it could be federal. I don't, frankly.
Dude, she is like so hard up for her damn blood supply that she is like freaking out. At a federal level? Are you gonna, can I have some now? Jesus Christ, lady.
Care.
Relax.
You're not committed to a ban at the federal
I will say
level.
this, everybody.
And I'll tell y'all, it's real unprecedented that they got him on these leftist platforms. It's almost like I said earlier, they fucked with the election so much in 2020 that if they do it again, they might cause a freaking civil war. So they almost might be ready to, like, the deep state might actually allow this thing to go to him if it happens to play out that way. So they're just hard up for him to accept some of their little policies and shit like that. Just look how hard up she is. She's almost like she knows he's gonna win this shit, because they know if they fuck around again, there's gonna be some pissed off gun owning conservatives. We know liberals don't like guns, so if there's a civil war, I don't know if they're gonna pull out dildos and start slapping people with them. I don't know what they're gonna do against people that got guns. I'm just being objective. I don't like guns. All right, there you go, YouTube. Relax.
Including the great legal scholars, love the idea of Roe v. Wade terminated so it be brought back to the states.
It sounds like that's what you think, too, that
Well,
it should remain a state issue.
I would say this, from a pure standpoint, from a legal standpoint, I think it's probably better, but I can live with it either way. It's much more important. The number of weeks is much more important. But something will happen with the number of weeks, the amount of time, after which you can't do it. And you know what? The most powerful people that are anti-abortion are okay with that now. And you know what? They weren't okay with that even a year ago.
Your former Vice President, Mike Pence, believes that a fetus should have constitutional rights. Do you believe that, Mr. President?
Mike Pence said something about 15 weeks, too, which was a big change for Mike Pence, because Mike Pence had no exceptions. I have exceptions, by the way.
Melody Thomas,
I
salute.
think people should have exceptions. I think if it's rape or incest or the life of the mother, I think you have to have exceptions.
Does a fetus have constitutional rights, Mr.
And a lot of
President?
people, when they don't have exceptions. Now, I will tell you that I think most people, most Republicans are willing. You go life of the mother, rape, incest. I think most of them are there.
But should a
That's a
fetus
big
have
statement.
constitutional rights, Mr. President?
Well, I don't know what he's saying, because before he wanted, you couldn't have abortion.
But what
at
are
all.
you saying?
Now all of
What
a
do
sudden,
you think?
excuse me. Now all of a sudden he's saying 15 weeks. I said, wow, where did that come from? That's a radical change. Look, something is going to happen that's going to be good for everybody, and that's what I'm almost like a mediator in this case. They wanted Roe v. Wade terminated because it was inappropriate. We got it done. Something's going to happen. It's going to be a number of weeks. Something's going to happen where both sides are going to be able to come together. And then we'll be able to go into other things like the economy, our military.
Are you saying a federal ban with exceptions? Is that what you're saying?
What I say is very simple, because you can't put words in my mouth like that.
I
because
just
you've been
wanna-
hearing-
What he's saying is whores cannot just... No, I'm kidding. All right.
hearing me talk about this issue, and I think talk about it
Chill out, YouTube.
very productively. It could be a state ban. It could be a federal ban. But Democrats want that, too. Democrats don't want to see abortion in the 7th month. Okay, I speak to a lot of Democrats. They want a number. There is a number, and there's a number that's going to be agreed to.
And look, at the time where you feel like, okay, I don't want this baby, why is it so late into the pregnancy where you finally are like, okay, I don't want this thing, all right, or whatever, even if it's like, because when they get bigger or whatever, it get complications. That's cool. Separate them from this whole shit. But it's almost like these people want these babies fully developed. So, it's hard to talk about this, but even in China, dude, they found like laboratories in the basement of a whole bunch of, this hard to talk about, but discarded bodies and stuff like that. And I don't know what they're doing with the organs, see, this all fake. I'm not saying none of this is real, but there's some people that think that that's the motive behind letting the pregnancies go to a certain extent so you can get these vitalized organs. And this is all bullshit, all right? Everything I'm saying is not true.
And Republicans should go out and say the following, because I think the Republicans speak very inarticulately about this subject. I watched some of them without the exceptions, et cetera, et cetera. I said, other than certain parts of the country, you're not going to win on this issue, but you will win on this issue when you come up with the right number of weeks, because Democrats.
And look, I don't support abortion at all, but I don't, when it comes to rape, incest, all this other type of stuff and complications and stuff like that, I can't tell somebody, not to care about certain things like that, because then that means somebody could just, do the R word with somebody, and then it's like, oh, you got to have that child, or you're creating a child out of complete chaos, like complete low frequency acts. And I'm not saying that the babies are going to turn out anyway, because there's a lot of people that came out of situations like that in a good way. I don't know. But I'm saying, like, I don't even support two morons having a kid. But I don't also not going to say you got to abort the kid at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So it's not a situation I like to really talk about. But I can say definitively is I don't support, abortion at all. You know what I mean? But again, I don't support a country that promotes nothing but sex, nothing but violence, nothing but violent acts, women half dressed, which attract weirdos who do the R word to them. They're promoting all this type of shit. So it's almost like they're not trying to, I could respect like other countries, so-called Muslim countries or something, cover their women up. What's wrong with that? I mean, you want to keep this type of shit going or not?
Democrats don't want to be radical on the issue. Most of them, some do. They don't want to be radical on the issue. They don't want to kill a baby in the 7th month or the 9th month or after birth. And they're allowed to do that, and you can't do that.
I have a very robust foreign policy section to get to.
Okay.
I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of your legal challenges. So if we could do that first, and then we'll move on to foreign policy. You are facing 4 indictments.
Biden indictments, Biden political indictments. He said to the Attorney General,
he's had nothing to do with it.
He said to the Attorney General, indict him. They put in the New York DA case, which everybody admits isn't even a case.
There's no proof of that, Mr. President.
They're Biden
there's
indictments.
No proof of that.
You know what? He started something that's a very slippery slope. He said, I've got a guy that's beating me in the polls. I'm beating all the Republicans by a lot, and I'm beating him by a lot. I have somebody that's beating me in the polls. Indict him. And they, not only that, they took their top person in the Department of Justice and put him into the Manhattan DA's office. They're dealing with Fannie Willis all the time.
Mr. President, the Attorney General appointed a special counsel.
And real quick, remember Fannie Willis. Hey, Mariah, salute. I'm going to get to that message you sent me, too. I'm going to check that shit out. But Fannie Willis, the one who locked up the YSL gang because her side dick, some dude named Big Nut or some shit, got killed by them, supposedly, or whatever. So she personally went after these people out of spite and got Young Thug and all them locked up. All right, this is the same woman that's spitefully going after Trump for these political opponents. All right, so keep that in mind, that this is a witch hunt, because they see Donald Trump. Now they trying to smear this dude as much as they can, because they see that if they can't really successfully do this, they're not going to be able to rig the fucking election. So all they really can do is, and I say they're not going to be able to rig the election because remember what I said. If that shit from 2020 happens again, there's going to be a lot of pissed off conservatives that's not about to play no shit. And they own guns. And liberals do not like guns. So there's going to be a lot of guns versus butt plugs. Like what are liberals going to do? Get their sex toys and start going to war with them? No, you dealing with people that got guns, okay? You're going to piss off most of the fucking country, you do that again. But in order to stop that from happening, which I believe the deep state will allow, just to, okay, fuck it, give him 4 more years. During the 4 years, we'll just do another witch hunt. We'll try to find as much as we can. We'll do it like his first term. They was after him the whole first term. So either they're going to try to smear his name before it gets to that, or they just going to have to let the inevitable happen and sit 4 more years of Trump, but at the same time use their media to smear his fucking name.
To investigate you, President Biden, and President Biden's son Hunter, who was also indicted today. But I do want to
President Biden
move...
does not fall within the Presidential Records Act. And frankly, you don't ever hear anything about the special counsel, but they gave me this.
Yeah, I don't learn my lesson. I lost my 12,000 subscriber channel doing this type of shit, but I don't care. The fact that they took off they had a policy before where you can't talk about election fraud or the Hunter Biden laptop. They took those off, so now I could be free to talk about that type of shit, but they still keep you out the algorithm and what's that shit called? Throttle my fucking account, but that's okay. I got people that actually like this shit. I'll still do the content. It don't matter.
This deranged person named Jack Smith. He's a deranged lunatic. I fall
salute Mariah,
within
man.
the Presidential Records Act. It's very simple. It's a civil thing. In fact, the New York Times, of all institutions, did a story, and it was headlined, "Please, please, please, Mr. President, could we take a look at the documents?" And they said in the story that the only way you can get documents from a president is if you go there and say please, because this is civil, and they won't even have a lawsuit. They may have a civil lawsuit at most, but they probably don't even have a civil lawsuit. And this should never have been an indictment. There's no criminal. Now, there is criminal for Joe Biden because he was a senator and he was a vice president.
Well, the charges you're facing don't have anything to do with the Presidential Records Act. But let me ask my question so we can get to foreign policy.
Wait a minute. This comes within the Presidential Records Act. That's what it's about.
Let me just ask.
So what he just said is the documents they caught him with, a sitting president is allowed to have them. Joe Biden did the same thing, except he did it when he was a vice president, and you're not allowed to have them. Nobody gives a fuck.
These questions, and then we can move on to some other topics. You are facing 4 indictments, 91 felony charges.
If you would say it properly, I'm facing 4 Biden indictments. He told the Justice Department to indict him, or Merrick Garland said, let's indict him.
Transgender. It's made very, very cool through the media.
No, that shit ain't cool. Get the fuck off my screen.
Let me ask you this, Mr. President.
They indicted their political opponent.
I just want to hear from you on this. I want to know what's in your head. When you go to bed at night, do you worry about going to jail?
No, I don't really.
Nope.
I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had people come up to me and say, how do you do it, sir? How do you do it? I don't even think about it. These are corrupt people that I'm dealing with. They're destroying our country. I don't even think about it. All I think about is making the country great, making America great. Look, these are...
Dude, I'm just throwing this out there. I just went to my family reunion the other day, and it's a few liberals. They from the hood though, so they don't understand politics. They just believe liberal shit for some reason because that trickles down into their whole little economy and shit. I pulled up with the Donald Trump hat. I ain't get no fuck. They thought that shit was funny though. I ain't gonna lie.
Political. These are Banana Republic indictments. These are third world indictments.
I put out the pictures and all that shit too.
The President of the United States sees how we're doing. We have a movement the likes of which has never happened in this country before. And you see it with the polls. I mean, I'm up on these people by 60 points and 59 points. I don't mean I'm at 59. I'm leading them by 59. You almost say, like, why are they campaigning? Asa Hutchinson, he's at 0. Christie's at 2. Other ones are at 1. DeSanctimonious is at 9. I just see a poll come. I mean, I'm leading.
And real quick, that's the thing. A lot of people don't. Oh, Trump is scared to do the debates. Dude, this dude is killing every single fucking Republican. There is no need to do these fucking debates with them. The presidential debate is what he needs to focus on. Whenever that happens, he's gonna demolish dude in that. Nobody cared when Joe Biden didn't do the fucking first debate though. Remember that shit? Or the second. You know how the president's supposed to have 3 debates. Joe Biden skipped out on one of them. At a time where, no, you better do this fucking debate. But Trump is killing these people. These people have no fucking chance at winning the Republican seats. And they worried about him doing the fucking debate. And every one of these Republicans except Vivek Ramaswamy is all part of the deep state plan. They all support the Ukraine. They all support all that bullshit they doing over there, including Nikki Haley. All of them are part of the deep state, and they just using these people to chip away at Donald Trump. But they're so far below, it don't even make sense to even talk to these bums.
Him by 60 points.
Mr. President.
And you say, why are they doing it? But here's what they did. They saw this happening. And he went to the Attorney General of the United States and he told them, indict Trump.
There's just no evidence of that, Mr.
Why?
President.
Because you mean
but
he's on
let's stay on
Look
track.
at all the lies he's told.
Mr. President, I want to talk
Kristen,
about
wait a
you.
minute. Wait. Could I say one thing? Look at all the lies he's told over the last couple of weeks. He said he was at the World Trade Center, and he wasn't. He said he flew airplanes.
Salute, Tara.
Right? He didn't. He said he drove trucks, and he didn't. Everything he says is like a lie. It's terrible.
Mr. President,
Even his handicap in golf, he said
stay,
he's a 6. He's not a 6.
I want to stay focused on you.
I ain't gonna lie, I do like Ramaswamy though. He's the only one that really supports Trump in this whole shit.
For the purposes of this interview, okay? Because it's important that we hear from you about all of this.
Well, I'd like you to, but you keep interrupting me.
Tell me, Mr. President, tell me what you see when you look at your mugshot.
I see somebody that loves this country in me, that loves this country. I see tremendous unfairness. I think very few people would have been able to handle what I handled. When I was coming down the escalator with Melania, I was already under investigation because they saw how well I was doing in the polls. And it just got worse and worse. And we caught them. We said they were spying on our campaign. It turned out to be true. They had the
Slim, what up? We going through the Ghost interview right now, being bigots as usual.
fake dossier. That turned out to be true. It was paid for by the Democrat Party. It was all fiction. All of these things happened. Impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2. I've been treated very badly, and I've won every single time. When you say, do I sleep? I sleep. I sleep because I truly feel that in the end, we're going to win. I think we're going to win an election the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. I don't think anything's going to stop it. Nothing's going to stop it because people see what's happened to our country. We're not respected in the world. Look at other countries. Look at what's happened. Everybody's going to the side of China, Russia, Saudi Arabia.
We're going to talk about that.
No,
Mr. President,
China
I want to delve into foreign
world.
policy, but let's get through this, and then I want to talk to you about all of those issues you just talked about.
Finally, this bitch blinked.
President.
Jesus
By the way, do you think your former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, is still loyal to you? He just pleaded not guilty in the Georgia
Well, I hope he's loyal to me. I mean,
do you worry about him flipping?
Wrong.
Do you worry
I didn't
about
do
him?
anything wrong.
Okay, let's talk about Georgia. I want to talk about that phone call that you made to Georgia's Secretary of State, a Republican,
By the
Brad
way,
Raffensperger.
that was even more perfect than my call to
Let's talk about it.
the president of Ukraine.
Okay.
It was a perfect call. Just before you start, many top legal scholars,
Nando, salute, bro.
almost everyone, but many have analyzed that phone call. That was a phone call made in front of, I guess, 7 or 8 lawyers. Brad Raffensperger, the head, who, by the way, last week said, I didn't do anything wrong. He said that was a negotiation. Brad Raffensperger, who I was dealing with, I appreciate that he said that, but he said last week, I didn't do anything wrong.
Let's talk about it so we can move on. You said in the
let
call.
me just tell you one other thing. When I spoke, I knew I was probably being taped. I didn't ask, but I knew I was probably being taped. You know, they illegally taped me because they taped me in Florida. It's a 2-party state. You know that, right? So they illegally taped the call. But forget about that for a second. I knew that there were many lawyers on the phone from the other side. There were many people. There were many people on the phone. When I told them, I said the election was rigged. I said all sorts of things about the election,
And
which
they
I
told you it
believe at
wasn't.
100%.
They told you it
No, I
wasn't.
have all the facts. Look, I have all the facts. In one way,
I'm saying this now because they pulled the policy that you can't talk about it. The election was fucking rigged. Plain and simple. I covered it tooth and nail on my last channel. All them videos got strikes at the time because you weren't allowed to talk about it.
I looked for a trial because it was so dishonest, okay, so rigged, and such a dangerous thing for our country. We have to have borders and we have to have fair elections. We have neither.
But I want to talk about the border. I want to talk about the border, but we have to
when
get
I
through
spoke in
this.
front of Brad Raffensperger, who again last week said I didn't do anything wrong.
Well, it
Brad
sounded like you were
Raffensperger
asking for him to
said
come
it
up
was
with
a negotiation.
11,000 votes.
No, and you know that. You're terrible when you say this. You're off to a
She's
bad
saying
start.
that.
because what I said was very simple. I got cheated in this election.
He told you.
And all I need is like 11,000, whatever the number was.
Brad
I got cheated
Raffensperger, who's a Republican, said you didn't get.
Well, he said that, but we have to go and see. You know, there's some court.
Look, if she think because she bring up some traitor-ass rhino Republican that they're like, well, he's a Republican and he said you cheated. All them, I was about to say the F word that rhymes with Bob Saget. Damn. All them bitches was cheating, bro. They went against Donald Trump. All the Republicans was helping the deep state. All of them. This is why I tell y'all this type of shit. People think I'm a fucking Republican. I don't give a fuck about that party, dude. I'm a Trumplican. God damn it.
Cases out there. We want to go into Fulton County and we want to see the real votes. And it's so hard.
He said they looked into it. The election had been certified 3 times.
I don't want them. I want to look into it. I would say that if we got access to the votes, which we're close to getting in court, as you know, if we got access to those votes, if we look in, you will find numbers that you wouldn't believe. More importantly, though, let me just say this.
I want to get through this, Mr. President.
Kristen, you have.
And yeah, Mariah, and also the human trafficking. Then they could organ harvest. Then nobody's legal. So when somebody goes missing, nobody goes looking for them. There's a lot of shit that they And I'm sorry, YouTube. All this. Everything I'm saying is not a fact. This is just entertainment.
Have to just hear me out for 1 second.
Foreign policy section.
We had, because you say something and then you want to go into the next subject. We had many people in the line. When I said, I spoke for an hour. I knew that many people were in the line. I knew that it was I happen to be a really smart person. Who is going to be talking badly when I have lawyers and many other people on the line? Nobody's going to say something bad, but if it was bad, why didn't they say, sir, that was very inappropriate of you to say? Nobody said that. Nobody said, sir. It was only a long time after the call that somebody said, oh, maybe he said something wrong.
They said, sir, there's no evidence.
This is a hoax, just like Russia, just like Ukraine. There's a hoax. Let me tell you, I spoke to them on the phone, and it was left, I think.
I did see that.
Okay, we'll get together tomorrow. Nobody said, sir, you shouldn't speak. If I said something incorrect, one of the lawyers for the state of Georgia, which I love, one of those lawyers would have said, sir, you have to take that back. That's an inappropriate statement.
The Republican Secretary of State said there was no evidence to fraud. He said he'd looked into it. The election had been certified 3 times when you made that call.
You're talking about a different subject. If I said something wrong on the call, he or one of his many lawyers that were on the call would have said, it's inappropriate what you just said. Nobody said that. We had a normal phone call.
They said there's no evidence of fraud.
This is how she started losing weight.
My name is Debbie, and with Noom, I've lost 130
Shut the
pounds.
fuck up.
He also said, I did nothing wrong last week.
Do you have any regrets about that call?
No,
whatsoever.
None whatsoever. Okay. I called to complain about an election.
Okay.
And I have every right to
Right.
do that. When you say,
She's like, do you got any regrets on trying to catch us up for cheating? Like, what the fuck, bitch? Yeah, no. Hold up. Yeah, no. Am I supposed to? Fuck it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay? Jesus Christ.
Do you think I have a right to complain about an election?
You have a right to take your case to court, which you did 60 times.
No, I didn't do 60 times. They wouldn't hear it based on all sorts of crazy, they wouldn't hear. We never got a trial. Judges would look at stuff and say, I'm not getting involved. They didn't want to get involved.
Right.
Let's keep moving so we get through.
If you take a look at the evidence, we have so much evidence. If you take a look at the evidence, even you I could convince.
You were going to hold that press conference, but you never did with the evidence.
No, because I'm using it in my court case instead.
Okay. I want to ask you about the case related to Mar-a-Lago. A new charge suggests you asked a staffer to delete security camera footage so it wouldn't get into the hands of investigators. Did you do that? It's false.
But let me tell you what.
Would you testify to that under oath?
I'll testify.
You testify to that under oath?
It's a fake charge by this deranged lunatic prosecutor who lost in the Supreme Court 9-0, and he tried to destroy lots of lives. He's a lunatic. So it's a fake charge. But more importantly, the tapes weren't deleted. In other words, there was nothing done to them. And they were my tapes. I could have fought them. I didn't even have to give them the tapes, I don't think. I think I would have won in court. When they asked for the tapes, I said, sure, they're my tapes. I could have fought them. I didn't even have to give them. Just so you understand, though, we didn't delete anything. Nothing was deleted.
So that's false. The people who testified.
Number one,
yes,
the
bitch.
false. Much more importantly, when the tapes came, and everybody says this, they weren't deleted. We gave them 100%.
Okay.
And just so you know, I offered them. I said, if you want to look at tapes, you can look at them.
Let's move on to January 6th and the allegations that you tried to subvert the election. And again, I just want to give you a chance to talk about this because voters want to hear about this. The most senior lawyers in your own administration and on your campaign told you that after you'd lost more than 60 legal challenges, that it was over. Why did you ignore them and decide to listen to a new outside group?
Because I didn't respect them.
You hired
lawyers, sure, but that doesn't mean, you hire them, you never met these people, you get a recommendation, they turn out to be rhinos or they turn out to be not so good.
That's what I said in my last Trump video, is I do recommend y'all to see where I was talking about Trump, why he had to roll out the vax, because the Democrats was planning a 10-year pandemic without a vaccine, so people was going to be going into the hospitals, getting tested, somehow ending up with the shit, but he stopped that with this type of shit. But what I said in there was, all these Republicans, like, he's kind of new to the whole politic thing, right? He was getting a lot of bad advice from these people. Here, do this, do this. He thinks he could trust them. Finds out later they sold him up the river to the Democrats. He's learning now that the swamp is deeper than he even thought.
In cases, I didn't respect him, but I did respect others. I respected many others that said the election was rigged. Look, we have many people, and it's my choice. I happen to know that the election was rigged. Okay, I know it because I have there's so much proof of ballot stuffing. It's amazing. Right just a little while ago, in terms of the modern history, where the 51 intelligence agents said very specifically they lied. They all lied.
And the reason why they put that new strain out there was because he stopped their 10-year plan and said, here, they want a vax, here, give it to them. All right, now what? Okay, it's over. Oh no, the vaccines don't work, guys. Don't worry about that. We'll just keep wearing 85 masks and all that type of shit. Now all of a sudden that they plan got stopped. Here, Bill Gates and all them at the World Economic Forums and all this shit. Let's roll out a new one, guys. Trump kind of stumped us with that one.
And they said about the laptop that it was Russia disinformation. That was a lie. That had a huge impact on the election. In fact, the pollsters say over 10 points. I didn't need 10 points. I needed 1/10 of a point. If you take a look at the Twitter files with the FBI and Twitter dealing, that had a huge impact on the election. Just those things. But in addition to that, you have ballot stuffing, you have a lot of
When you say you needed 1/10 of a point, you needed 1/10 of a point
I needed a very small.
win?
I think somebody said 22,000 votes.
To win?
Yeah. If you divide it among the states, it was 22,000 votes, something to that effect. Yeah.
To win the election?
Yeah, if I would have had another 22,000 votes over the whole. But look, they rigged the election. If you look at Pennsylvania,
but Mr. President, you're saying you needed more votes to win the election. Are you acknowledging you didn't win?
If you look at all of the statistics, all of the votes, they say 22,000 votes, over millions and millions of votes, 22,000 votes. So when they do Twitter files, or when they have 51 intelligence agents come out and lie that the laptop from hell was Russia disinformation, and now they find out it's not. But they knew that at the time.
Right.
They cheated on the election in that way, too.
I just want
Exactly. So here goes the FBI pressuring all the big tech companies, right? Mark Zuckerberg admitted this on Joe Rogan, right? He went on there and said, yeah, the FBI told us, be careful of this Hunter Biden story because we think it's Russian disinformation. When the whole time the FBI, who ended up getting in trouble, what the hell is the dude name? McCabe and all them people ended up getting in trouble for this type of shit. They knew that Hillary Clinton paid for that fake dossier so they could go, investigating Trump, so-called, for the Russian collusion. They knew this was a fake story bought for by Hillary Clinton and used that story to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop. Knew it was fake the whole time, though.
to be clear, though. Are you saying you needed those votes in order to win? Are you acknowledging you didn't win?
I'm not acknowledging. No, I say I won the election.
Okay. Even though, again, your lawyers told you you did not.
No.
Did you? Just let me
Some
understand.
people told me that,
Okay.
but many people told me the opposite.
Oh, if Hunter Biden was fucking Donald Trump Jr., they would have hung the whole Trump family in public on CNN, broadcasted live, lynchings.
You called some of your outside lawyers You said they had crazy theories. Why were you listening to them? Were you listening to them because they were telling you what you wanted to hear?
You know who I listened to myself? I saw what happened. I watched that election, and I thought the election was over at 10 o'clock in the evening.
You were listening to your instincts.
My instincts are a big part of it. That's been the thing that's gotten me to where I am, my instincts. But I also listen to people. There are many lawyers. I could give you many books. There are books that are written on how the election was rigged. There are numerous books that were written on how the election was rigged.
Just to be clear, were you listening to your lawyer's advice or were you listening to your own instincts?
I was listening to different people, and when I added it all up, the election was rigged. There are books
were you
that
calling
are written.
The shots, though?
In fact, Molly Hemingway wrote a great book.
But were you
called
calling
Rigged.
the shots ultimately?
Excuse me. Molly Hemingway, who's highly respected and great, she wrote a book, a best-selling book called Rigged.
Were you calling the shots ultimately?
As to whether or not I believed it was rigged, oh, sure. It was my decision, but I listened to some people. Some people said that. Like guys like Bill Barr, he was a stiff, but he wasn't there at the time. But he didn't do his job because he was afraid. You know what he was afraid of? He was afraid of being impeached. He was petrified to be impeached. And how do you not get impeached? Don't do anything.
We've heard so much, Mr. President, about that day, the actual day of January 6th, from other people. Yeah. But quite frankly, we haven't heard from you about your own perceptions of how that day unfolded. Sure. We've heard you talk about the rally. And I'm curious about what happened when you got back to the White House. I know
January 6th was orchestrated by Antifa and the deep state. We all know that.
You spent most of the day in the dining room. What were you doing in there? How were you watching it unfold?
So let me just tell you about January 6th. First of all, I had very little to do with January 6th. I was asked to speak. And I was the President of the United States. I'm allowed to do that. But I was asked to speak. Other groups, I think it was women's groups, a lot of people were involved in that. And it was incredible. It was incredible. It was, I think, the largest group I've ever spoken. You never see that. You never see pictures of the group that I was speaking to. I think it was the most people and I've spoken to some very large groups. Hundreds of thousands of people were there, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sight. But just so you understand,
most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products.
I went and I spoke. And by the way, peacefully and patriotically, and all of that which wasn't reported, but when I spoke, I have had senators go up. I said,
and the dude that tried to indict that one of the Trump indictments over that so-called insurrection took out a lot of what he was saying in the tweets. That shit was funny. I got a short on my channel that exposes that and goes through that whole shit.
They said, I've never heard you speak so moderately. You were very moderate.
What happened when you got back to the White House?
Well, wait, let me just say. So I spoke. And then I went back. I wanted to go down peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Secret Service, who I have great respect for.
Trump literally clearly said, we are the party of law and order and peace and all that. We're not going to be like Antifa, BLM and all them and act violently. Go there in peaceful protest if you're going to do anything. And they took this and said he incited a whole insurrection when all these little agents that you could tell are fucking uniformed and everything, looking like Antifa, go in there acting as Trump supporters, stirring up shit. And then guess what? When they get up in the damn Capitol building, you got police escorting them around like it's a fucking tour. Yeah, y'all seem so fucking scared.
Said, sir, it's better if you don't do that. It could be unsafe because they didn't because of riots, because it takes one guy with bad intentions, okay? So I didn't have a dispute with them. You had that one person said, I grabbed the man around the neck. Actually, I wish I was so strong to be able to do that. These are all tough guys, smart guys.
Dispute that account.
Dispute it? Who wouldn't dispute it? She's the craziest account I've ever heard. You mean that I was in the Beast, and she said I was in the Beast, and the Secret Service didn't win. So I took a guy who was like a black belt in karate and grabbed his neck and tried to choke him.
What happened?
That shit is stupid. No, but yes, through this whole shit, and whoever want to replay this and shit like that, I point out how she hurries up and tries to make her point so she could psychologically tell her viewers, look, we're telling you your talking points that you're supposed to believe, and we're going to try to skip right past it. And Trump's like, no, bitch. we're going right back to that because you're not about to skip past this shit. He been doing that to her the whole time, and she been trying to just say what their little fake news narrative is and skip right past it, and he corrected her every single time.
Ridiculous. Just so you understand, and I have great respect for Secret Service, by the way. They're fantastic. The Secret Service said, sir, it would be better if you did. And I said, I'd love to do it. They said it would be better until we went back to the White House. Just so you understand, I made a very nice speech. I wasn't Maxine Waters that calls for people's death and some of these. Take a look at what these other people say. It's so ridiculous.
Maxine Waters, old Tales from the Crypt looking ass, went out there screaming, we want you guys to make them feel so unwelcome. Throw shit. Break some shit. Literally, she didn't, but no incitement of any violence to see here. Trump says, hey, guys, we're not that type of people. We're not violent. We're the party of peace, order, law and order. Just peacefully protest. I'm telling you, do not start no shit. That's incitement of violence. But what Maxine did was just peaceful. Every time, it's funny how on these news stations they say, oh, BLM had another peaceful fucking protest. Somebody's getting fucking rock bottomed in the background. Stop it.
Where did you watch all of the events unfold?
Much more importantly, I offered 2 or 3 days before, 10,000 soldiers, right? And they were going to go because everybody was telling me, I knew it was going to be big in terms of the crowd, because everybody I spoke to said, hey, I'm going down on January 6th. I'm going down. I'm going to listen to your speech, etc. And there were other speakers. I wasn't the only speaker. There were many speakers. But wait a minute. I offered 10,000 people to the mayor of Washington, D.C., Nancy Pelosi, both of them, Nancy Pelosi and to the mayor of Washington. And they turned it down flat.
And they turned it down for that Capitol shit. He offered to send them some people to make sure nothing happens and all the other type of shit. They said no. Why they say no? Because they didn't want no peace. They didn't want no protection from so-called rioters. They wanted to make sure their little staged insurrection went through.
And the police commissioner was very nasty about it to her. And he testified. And here's what happened. The January 6th unselect committee of thugs and horrible people, the unselect committee.
And that's the thing right there. This is how you know she's trying to get her little fake talking points out there, because she'll say her point, and as soon as he responds, she's like, oh, let's go to the next one. No, bitch. Let me grab you by the fucking neck real quick. Sit down.
Destroyed all the evidence.
They say they didn't do that. We did ask them. We did ask the January 6th committee.
Well, they announced that they destroyed and deleted most of the evidence.
They say some of the evidence is still under review. I want to know what. I want to know about your perspective, Mr. President.
Listen,
I want to
they
ask
put out an announcement that they destroyed the evidence, and they destroyed all the stuff having to do with Nancy Pelosi, and they wouldn't let her testify. We said, why isn't she testifying? You know, it was a whole rigged deal. Why isn't she testifying? I offered them 10,000 soldiers. She turned them.
I want to know what
that
you
she's
did
in charge
on
of
that
security.
day. I want to know. You're the president of the United States. Though.
She's in charge of
Tell me how you watched this all unfold. Were you in the dining room watching TV?
I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell.
Why doesn't she sit there and say, wow, you offered them 10,000 soldiers and they didn't want them? He's like, well, you know, she's the head of security, right? That's who I go to for this type of shit, right? I offered her to the people. She's like, you're the president, though. What you mean? Okay, I'm trying to give her the fucking soldiers. But I'm a fucking robot. And I meant to sit here and make you look like you're fucking dancing around my fake ass talking points.
People later at an appropriate time. Just so you understand, however.
What did you do when the Capitol was under attack, though?
Let me just tell you.
In the moment that the Capitol
was under attack. Did you see the statements I made in the Oval Office and just outside of the Oval Office?
Absolutely. I was there that day.
Our police are great. We love our police. We love everybody. Go home.
That was
a beautiful statement.
That was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, more than
I don't know.
3 hours after the attack started.
But there were tweets that were put out before that.
I want to know who you called
By the way,
on that day.
Nancy Pelosi. I don't have. Why would I tell you that? Listen, Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol was under attack?
I'm not going to tell you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. if she didn't do that.
But
and now
Nancy
I understand.
Pelosi doesn't have the
I
authority
understand
that
the
you
police
have as
testified
commander in
against.
chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen. Listen to me.
What?
I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her, Capitol Police, great people. They testified against her, and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence. They destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people who wonder why you as commander-in-chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have as commander-in-chief?
She has authority over
Why
the
didn't you
Capitol.
send help in that moment, though?
Frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
So when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming?
Well, you don't realize anything until quite a while.
Do you realize she turned down 10 fucking thousand soldiers? You robotulic bitch.
National Guard not coming. I asked it to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just
stop
so
it.
you know.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you about
the mayor
pardons,
Mr.
President.
President. The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
I'm talking
of
about
Capitol
the day
Police,
of,
wait a minute.
Yep.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Mr. President.
Nancy Pelosi's responsible.
Mr. President, you're the president, though. You have authorities that
Fuck that Trump. Slap this bitch.
no one else has as the commander-in-chief. Do you think you showed leadership on that day?
Yes, absolutely, I did.
Okay.
And I showed calm. Nancy Pelosi is responsible for the security, and she did it.
That's a robot, dude.
And by the way, from what I understand, they burned all the evidence.
Okay. She says she never got an official request. They say they...
Y'all remember that movie Mars Attacks, right? With they sent the robot, the Martian in there chewing the gum and shit. That's this bitch.
but that's what you're saying.
Really?
Let's talk
She
about...
bit off dude's finger.
Her daughter happened to be a documentary.
Let's talk about potential pardons.
Documentary worker just happened to be there taping her at the time.
Let's talk about potential pardons, because a lot of your supporters are wondering about that. Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years in jail. Now that you know what the sentence is, 22 years in jail, will you give him a pardon? Will you give other Proud Boys a pardon?
I don't know him. I never met him. I never heard of him until I started reading this
Will you
stuff.
pardon him?
But I want to tell you, he and other people have been treated horribly. Antifa kills people, and those guys didn't even get tried in many cases.
There's no
They
evidence
put
that
these
Antifa
guys
was
in
there.
jail for 17, 18, and 22 years. They didn't kill anybody. Some of them never even went into the Capitol. Some of them weren't even in D.C., and they got a 22 or a 17-year sentence. 16, 18,
More than 1,000
15,
people have
22.
been
Wait a
charged,
minute.
Mr.
Wait a minute. Yeah, 1,000 people. How many people, let me ask you this. How many people were charged for destroying Portland? How many people were charged for burning
Will you
down
give
the
him a
police
pardon?
precinct and the
Will you
courthouse
pardon him, though? Will you pardon him?
in Minneapolis? I'd certainly look at it. I'd look at that, and I'd look at all the other people that have suffered, the J6 people.
Mr. President, let me ask you one final question, and then let's move on to foreign
that
policy.
didn't even go into the building have suffered gravely. And you have to say one system of justice, right? You take a look at what's gone on in Portland. They burned down the city. The city is in shambles to this day. The store owners don't even rebuild storefronts anymore. They put up 2x4s.
I want to move on to foreign policy, Mr. President.
But why
Let me
do
just
you
ask
do that?
one more
Why do you give me a horrible question and then you don't let me answer it? You're off.
Look, he just called her out. Look, and salute to the chat. Ben calling that shit out.
Why do you give me a horrible question and then you don't let me answer it? You're off to a bad start. I'm telling you.
Mr. President, I want to make sure we get to talk about foreign policy as well.
But I don't mind. I have all the time in the
You
world.
do? Okay.
I have all the time in the world. Why is it that the people, Antifa people, and very bad people that burned down Portland, burned down Minneapolis, burned down so much, New York City, what they did in New York City?
She don't want to talk about that, Trump, because you know it's the Democrats that told them to do that shit.
And they were barely charged. And yet the people in Washington, in some cases, never even went into the building. They've been
That's
persecuted.
a fact, Corey.
They've been persecuted.
The people who were charged in January 6th, some of them were charged with sedition. Some of them were charged for violating the Capitol.
But many of these people have been
Your
persecuted,
supporters?
what they've done to them.
Your
And they
supporters
didn't do this to the people that burned down. You take a look at Portland. It's like a burned down hulk of a city, including the federal courthouse.
Mr. President, If you were reelected, would you pardon yourself?
I could have pardoned myself. Do you know what? I was given an option to pardon myself. I could have pardoned myself when I left. People said, would you like to pardon yourself? I had a couple of attorneys that said, you can do it if you want. I had some people that said it would look bad if you do it, because I think it would look terrible. I said, here's the story. These people are thugs, horrible people, fascists, Marxists, sick people. They've been after me from the day I came down the escalator with Melania, and I did a great job as president. People were acknowledged. Great economy, great jobs, great this, great that, rebuilt the military, Space Force, everything. I could go on forever. Let me just tell you. I said, the last thing I'd ever do is give myself a pardon. I could have given myself a pardon. Don't ask me about what I would do. I could have, the last day, I could have had a pardon done that would have saved me all of these lawyers and all of these fake charges, these Biden indictments. They're all Biden indictments, political. They indicted, they want to arrest their political opponents. Only third world countries do that, banana republics. So, ready? I never said this to anybody. I was given the option. I could have done a pardon of myself. You know what I said? I have no interest in even thinking about it. I never even wanted to think about it. And I could have done it. And all of these questions you're asking me about the fake charges, you would...
Oh shit, tell me Trump don't understand universal laws where even if you think about something, you can possibly attract that type of stuff. He's like, bitch, I don't even want to think about that shit. Think I got to these billions by being a moron? He know the laws.
Be asking me because it's a very powerful thing for a president.
Hey, you ever seen a wealthy person or a wealthy family or a
Donald
jet
Trump.
owner? Like, I got a jet, I'm sorry, you know? You ever done that?
Shut the fuck up.
I was told by some people that these are sick lunatics that I'm dealing with. Give yourself a pardon, your life will be a lot easier. I said, I would never give myself a pardon.
Even if you were reelected in this moment?
Well, I think it's very unlikely. What did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. You mean because I challenged an election, they want to put me in jail? I challenged an election, but I challenged a crooked election.
So it's not
It was
on
a
your
rigged
radar
election.
right now.
I challenged a rigged election.
A rigged election. And look, when you go look into why Twitter and Facebook and all these other platforms been banned out of other foreign countries, it's because they aid in election fraud. These other countries don't want them aiding in fucking election fraud. So when you see what happened to our country, it's pretty much well known that most pro-conservative channels were shadow banned and terminated. Hello, I went through this personally. So I could be just somebody that's just regurgitating conservative talking points, but people that really been following my shit since the first channel know this. I've been documenting it in real fucking time. This really happened. So when people are going to that far extent to take down people and all this other type of shit, it's a political corruption going on right there, which is why other countries ban these bitch ass social media sites.
And now I'm going to win for a third time. I just hope they have better vote counters.
Let's move on to foreign policy.
Oh, Melody, I got on my channel, I got a couple of her videos on my channel.
Mr. President, I want to talk about the war in Ukraine. I want to big picture get a sense of how you see this conflict. Do you see the security of Ukraine as critical to the security of the United States?
Okay, let me talk about it without interruption.
Fuck the Ukraine.
Ukraine would have never happened if I were president. If this election weren't rigged, Ukraine would have never happened. You would have hundreds of thousands of people, including lots of soldiers, still living. The cities would be flourishing or at least up. These are cities that can never be rebuilt again, certainly not the way they were. Magnificent buildings, all ripped down like a demolition site. It would have never happened for two reasons. Number one, and most importantly, Putin has a lot of respect for me.
Jules, salute.
He wouldn't have played games. And I told him, don't ever go in. And he would never have gone in. This was only after I left that this happened.
He dared Putin to go in there. He said, if you go in there, I'm going to destroy you.
Likewise, President Xi would never, ever be talking about Taiwan the way he's talking about it right now. And they didn't. They weren't talking about it. It was only after I left. He would have never gone in. Equally as importantly, oil prices would have been at $40 a barrel instead of $110 a barrel. So he wouldn't have been able to afford going in. He actually is the only nation that made money because oil has been driven up so high by stupid people like Biden. Biden is an incompetent man. And what happened is, well, in fact, you're going to hit a new high very soon again. That means Russia. Russia makes money from oil. Russia is going to make a lot of money. And because they're making a lot of money, there's no reason for them to settle other than humanitarian reasons. And let's not assume people are going to be so humanitarian. So Putin would have never gone in because oil was at $40 a barrel, and he wouldn't have been able to afford to have gone in. At $100 a barrel, he made a fortune. And that's one reason. The other reason he wouldn't have gone in is because I said, don't go in. Don't even think about it.
Just to that key question, though, Mr.
I said, don't do it.
Do you think that our security, the United States security, is linked to Ukraine's security?
I think that Europe has to do more. We're in for $200 billion. They're in for $25 billion. And it affects them more than it affects us. It certainly affects them much more than it affects us.
So you do think that it's linked
well, I think
in
Europe
some
has taken
way.
advantage of a stupid president.
You've probably...
Look, Biden should say to them, you have to equalize. You have to catch up. You know, Europe is about the same size as our economy if you add them all up, add the countries up. It's about the same size. And Biden should say to them, like I did with NATO. You know, NATO, they all owed money. I said, get your money in. And we had over $430 billion put in almost immediately. And the head of NATO, Stoltenberg, Secretary General, nice guy, he said to me, most amazing thing I've ever done. And he said it publicly, too. He said, Bush would come in, make a speech and leave. Obama would come in, make a speech and leave. Trump came in and said, you guys aren't paying your bills. And I got him to pay. You know, they asked me something, which hasn't been reported, but the media knows it. We had a meeting of the 28 countries at that time.
Boy, Trump pulled up like Frank Lucas in that bitch.
28 countries. And they said to me, are you saying, sir,
y'all owe me
I said, you gotta
something.
pay your bills. Are you saying, sir, that you won't protect us against Russia if we don't pay? I said, sorry to tell you.
You should Angie that.
I'm not.
What?
Angie that. It means connecting with skilled professionals for all your home projects, from repairs to renovations, so you can get the most out of your home. Get started today at Angie.com.
That's what I'm saying. You know what happened?
Yeah.
They started sending us money like, and I was never given credit for it, but you wouldn't even have a NATO if it wasn't for me.
Let me ask you,
But here's the
President,
thing,
about
the
your
European
strategy.
countries have to start paying their share because
do.
we are having to do with Ukraine. Because we're at 200 billion and they're at 20 or 25 billion. It's so unfair.
Let me ask you about your strategy, though, because you have said you want to end this war in 24
Yeah.
hours. You saw the meeting between Kim Jong-un and President Putin.
all
Do
right.
you think that complicates your strategy if you were reelected to try
No,
to end this
look,
war in
it
24
would have been
hours?
easier if the war didn't start and you'd have hundreds of thousands of people living, most importantly. But it would have been a lot easier if it didn't. But I can get it done, and I can get it done quickly.
How do you do it?
There's
Can you paint
another
a picture
example.
for
You
me?
talk
Can
about
you
Kim
paint a
Jong.
picture? How
You
does it
talk
happen?
about Kim Jong Un. Right? I got along great with Kim Jong Un after the first month or two when we were sparring, but I got along great with him. We were in no danger. There was President Biden.
And some people might say, oh, that means he's friends with them. No, bitch, that means they respect him. They respect not to fuck with him. That's why Trump always told him, if you do some shit that we don't like and all that type of shit, you go fuck with these other countries, start wars and all this shit, we about to fuck with you right back. Why you think wasn't no wars underneath Trump? They knew better.
Said, and he felt even now, and President Obama told me when we sat down. Obama told me, and Biden still to this day, except I don't think he knows he can't put two sentences together. President Obama told me our biggest threat is from North Korea. We're going to end up in a war. We didn't end up with a war with North Korea. We were going to make a deal. I would say I would have had a deal made with.
Nah, Jules, I'm talking about that American Gangster when he pulled up on dude with the cup.
North Korea shortly after the election, had the election not been rigged.
How do you end this war, though, talking of deals? How do you end this war in
Well,
24
I can't
hours?
tell you exactly, because if I did, people understand. If I tell you exactly, I lose all my bargaining chips. I mean, you can't really say exactly what you're going to do, but I would say certain things to Putin. I would say certain things to Zelensky, both of whom I get along. Don't forget, Zelensky did something that was very honorable. They asked him, it didn't stop these animals from impeaching me, but, you know, one of those things. They asked him, did Trump do anything wrong? He said, absolutely not. It was a very...
So everybody that's you know, pro-Ukraine, all the Democrats, yeah, I stand with Ukraine and all this shit. The leader of the Ukraine said Trump didn't do nothing bad when all the Democrats that support the Ukraine says that Trump did. The very person that they use against Trump when it comes to the Ukraine said he didn't do nothing.
Very normal phone call. You can't say that about Biden's call because Biden, what he did was horrible with the prosecutor, but he said something that was very honorable. He could have grandstanded and said, oh, I felt threatened. He said that President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong on the phone call.
Some people hear you say you're going to end the war in 24 hours, and they worry that means President Putin is going to get to keep the territory he's unlawfully
I'd make a fair
claimed.
deal for everybody. Nope.
Doesn't mean that? Wouldn't be a win for Putin?
You know, that's something that could have been negotiated because there were certain parts, Crimea and other parts of the country, that a lot of people expected could happen. You could have made a deal. So they could have made a deal where there's less territory right now than Russia's already taken, to be honest. And you could have made a deal where nobody was killed. They had a deal. They would have had a Ukraine country. Now nobody even knows if Ukraine is going to be totally taken over. I will say this. Something's going on, and it's not good for Ukraine because the news is no longer reporting about the war, the fake news. They don't report about the war anymore. You don't find much reporting. That means that Ukraine's losing, okay? I see very little reporting from NBC, your network. I see very little reporting from NBC, ABC, from CBS, from anyone about the war.
I like Putin too. He called us out. He called out the whole country of America and said we are satanic. Start really going in on America, and he was right about all that shit.
Used to be you'd go and you'd watch, even a couple of months ago, you'd watch all of this great strategy. The spring offensive never happened. Ukraine's spring offensive never happened because they were met with a wall of armaments and bombs.
President Putin's worried people are losing interest. President Zelensky's worried that people are losing interest in this war. As you're saying,
no, I'm just saying, I'm not seeing anything about the war anymore. To me, that means that probably because the press is fake and very discredited, that would mean that, look, here's my attitude.
They're getting the best of the Ukraine, and the Ukraine is losing, so they don't want to really, talk about a lot of this shit. But also they're losing because they're meant to lose.
The war. I just want people to stop being killed. I was asked by that ridiculous CNN group during my town hall, whose side are you on? I said, I'm on the side of people stop being killed. I don't want to see people killed. They're being killed by the thousands and thousands and thousands. And that's the side I'm on. I don't want, and you know what? People like that answer, to be honest. And I stay with that same answer.
This game.
Man, get the fuck out of here with these.
You're not ready for it.
And I'm not getting no premium.
I want people to stop being killed.
I want to ask you about something President Putin said about you this week. I don't know if you've seen it. This was very recent. President Putin said, quote, "We surely hear that Mr. Trump..."
Well, hold up, Clip. Yeah, exactly. If you see what the Jays are doing here, I mean, you could pretty much use your critical thinking and figure out what they were doing over there. Okay, and then if you see what Donald Trump is doing here, you could put your critical thinking and figure out why they're comparing him to the guy over there, Hitler. Why are they comparing him to that? And we know Donald Trump ain't doing nothing but good. What are you talking about? You comparing him to that dude? Got to think.
Says he will resolve all burning issues within several days, including the Ukrainian crisis.
Trump, y'all look into Operation Broken Hearts and all these other operations. I'll actually, if I think YouTube ain't gonna strike me for it, I'll do another video about that type of shit. I had to be very coded about it and everything too, but it's gonna be hard to keep up with because they starting to catch on to all our little code words and all that shit. So it'll be hard, but yeah. One of my first lives on this second channel, we was talking about Kate Spade, which is what's his name? David Spade's brother's wife, who got killed, pretty much ratting on a lot of these people that was involved in all that type of shit. And we went into all the Trump operations that went after the traffickers and went after the predators online and all that type of shit. We might could do a live like that pretty soon, but I gotta be really, really fucking careful.
We cannot help but feel...
Because ask the people that was there in that live. That bitch got struck right when it was done.
...happy about it. What do you make of that? Do you welcome his support?
I like that he said that because that means what I'm saying is right. I would get him into a room, I'd get Zelensky into a room, then I'd bring them together and I'd have a deal worked out. I would get a deal worked out. It would have been a lot easier before it started. Essentially for 4 years, I kept them from doing anything. Because you know what, I will tell you this, I've never said this, Ukraine was the apple of his eye.
Exactly. The so-called Nazis were them. They just created the other group. That's what they do. They create the good guys too, so they can look like the good guys, but they're really the people that are in the country doing the bullshit. So instead of having the real good guys take out the trash, what they do is create another little sector of good guys and say, hey, don't worry about it, guy, we'll take care of the trash. So they act like they're killing these people. That's a smart comment right there, and we can't even really go too deep on that.
They said, don't ever do it, don't ever do it. He would have never done it. But again, oil prices. He wouldn't have done it because of me, but oil prices.
And again, hold up. My bad, keep pausing. Salute Melody and Clip. Too, because y'all know on my channel I covered that whole George W. Bush Sr. funeral, which was actually like a tribunal when you get all the facts and everything about it. And yeah, remember when Donald Trump went in there handing out them envelopes, why did George Bush look like he was so fucking like defeated? He wasn't even, Jeb Bush was looking at the envelope in complete outrage, and George Bush was trying his hardest not to look down because he already knew what was up. He already knew.
But again, oil prices. He wouldn't.
So that means his day was coming.
Oil prices. The prices were so high that he had so much money, so he had all this money to prosecute the war. The one who drove up the prices was Biden.
Given that President Putin has bombed maternity wards.
And now hold up real quick. Remember, this chick is the one who hosted one of the Biden and Trump debates.
President Putin.
They always got her.
Bombed maternity wards. 20,000 kids kidnapped from Ukraine by Russia. Mass graves. Do you welcome his support, his all but endorsement?
Look, I had a very good relationship with him, and yet nobody was tougher on Russia than me. I stopped Nord Stream 2. You never heard of Nord Stream 2. That was the pipeline until I got involved. I said Nord Stream 2, people that were sophisticated, military people and political people, never heard of Nord Stream 2. I had it ended. The pipeline was dead. Biden came in and he approved it. There was nobody tougher than me with Russia, and yet I got along with Putin. Let me tell you, I got along with him really well. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He's got 1,700 nuclear missiles, and so do we. But look, that's a good thing. Getting along is okay, but I got along through strength. And the war would have never...
What he means I got along through strength is, it's just like we're both men, right? You know not to fuck with me because I might fuck you up. Or we might have a pretty even fight, whatever you want to say. But there's a respect men have with each other that, all right, I don't tread on his property. I don't trespass because I know what he does. And he won't do it to us because he knows how we do. So I got all these guns. They got all these guns. Let's keep the peace around here. But when Joe Biden gets in there, he just bends over for these people and is like, here, come in.
Never happened. The war would have never happened. Now what's happened, it's so bad. The oil price is so high. It's hard to get it stopped. The oil price is so high. When he goes above $50 and $60 a barrel, he makes a lot of money on the war. Now, it's a humanitarian thing. It's a lot of different reasons. But I will get that war stopped very, very quickly.
I want to talk about another region that you talked about. Let's talk about another region you talked about, China.
China.
If you were to cut a deal between President Putin and President Zelensky, do you run the risk of emboldening China to invade Taiwan?
No, not at all. Because China, he's another one I got along to until we had the China virus come in. Once COVID came in, okay, once it was like, you know, I made a great trade deal with China, one of the greatest deals ever made for the farmers and for the manufacturers. $50 billion a year is a great deal. I don't even talk about it because once COVID came in, it was like, I didn't want to talk about anything. I was a much different person. What happened to this world, not our country, the whole world, what happened with COVID. And it just shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. what happened, what China did to the world was so bad. But I had a great relationship
Would
with,
you send
I had a
troops
great
to Taiwan?
relationship with President Xi, really great relationship. And he was going to stop fentanyl from coming in. He was going to do a lot of, he was going to criminalize it if you made it. You know, in China, they have a death penalty for drug dealers. He was going to.
I agree with that. they sit there executing motherfuckers for these drugs and shit. But that'll teach somebody not to sell drugs, huh? Motherfuckers will get their act together real quick. But yeah, for some reason she keeps calling him president throughout this thing. I know they might do that with certain things. So just for the skeptics, I'll say yeah, they call all the former presidents president and all that other type of stuff. But it is interesting though.
Going to make that with fentanyl dealers too. But then the election didn't work out.
Yeah, the Soros virus.
I know you've been asked this, but very quickly, if China were to invade Taiwan, have you made a determination, again, since voters are about to go to the polls, would
she keep talking about Trump like he's somebody that let these countries do this shit? Under him, there was no fucking wars. She talking to him like he's Biden.
you send the U.S. military into Taiwan if President Xi were to invade? President Biden says he would.
I won't say. Because if I said, I'm giving away, only stupid people are going to give that answer. I heard the other day DeSanctimonious said something about he was going to do this or he was going to do that. I say, well, why is he saying the strategy? You can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask me that question, I would never say that because you give away all your options.
But you don't take it off the table.
I don't take anything off the table. Yeah.
If elected, you say you would order the Defense Department to use special.
Remember when Trump and Hillary was going at it in the debates? He called her out for that. She was sitting here telling all these plans on how they're gonna, the defense plans and all this. I should make a video on that. And he was like, look at her. She's giving away our military secrets and all this type of shit. You know why they do that, right? Because they're easily compromised by our enemies. So it's like our enemy wants to invade, and then you got idiots like this, like Hillary and them. It's like, here, what? I'll tell you everything you need to know. They're telling the shit on fucking national TV.
Special forces to inflict maximum damage.
I didn't say
drug
that.
cartels.
No. People said I said that.
Okay, what would you do?
I didn't say that.
What would you do?
I wouldn't tell you what I do. Why would I say that? Because, again, you don't want people to know your strategy. Now, people said, they leaked and said things that I said this or I said that or I was going to hit them with Patriot missiles, the drug dealers in Mexico. But I will say.
No, like Norm Macdonald said, the first bitch.
And horribly, that they kill 250,000 people in the United States every year. You never hear that number. You hear 100,000. I think it's much more. They destroy families because when you lose a son or a daughter to fentanyl, or a wife or anybody else, but when you lose a son or daughter,
see that.
Life is destroyed. Their lives are destroyed. They've destroyed so many families. It comes through Mexico.
Hillary said, we don't want someone like Donald Trump in charge of our, I don't know what she said, but like something. And he was like, yeah, you'll be in jail if I'm in charge of this shit.
So, something's got to be done. If we were in war, we would lose 250,000 people. We're losing more people than you lose in just about any war that we've ever had. And we lose them on a yearly basis. Something has to be done, and it has to be done fairly quickly.
Ron DeSantis says he's in this race to finish the border wall. What do you say to that?
Well, I built
voters?
500 miles of border wall. It was great. It was just what as you know, the Border Control Board and everybody else, Border Patrol. I had them in my office. I wanted to we were going to do concrete plank, 40 feet high. They didn't want that. They wanted you see-through. They wanted to be steel, concrete, and rebar. I did everything. I gave them the wall that they wanted. We tested it. We had mountain climbers test the ones that's the wall we built. I built almost 500 miles of wall. We were then going to build another 200 miles of certain areas that all of a sudden people were coming into areas that they couldn't come into anymore. And we were all set to do that. It was all bought.
Exclusive Capitol Hill footage. Hold up.
What was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many, many hours of finding the right camera angles and watching it.
Hang on.
The first trouble started just after 1 o'clock.
Shut the fuck up. That better not be.
And all Obama had to do, all Biden had to do, it could be Obama too, because a lot of people think he's calling the shots, so who knows. But all Biden had to do is go out and put it up. And he not only didn't put it up, he took it off the site and they put it in yards hundreds of miles away so that Texas and Arizona couldn't get it. I had the safest border in history. I had the best border in history. We had the lowest drug numbers for years and years and years, decades. We had the lowest drug numbers. We had the lowest human trafficking numbers. We had the least number of people coming across. All he had to do is go to the beach like he does all the time. If he went to the beach and didn't do anything, we'd have a great border right now.
Final question, Mr. President. You have met with prime ministers, kings, queens, dictators. You've seen it all. As you think about the possibility of a second term, do you still think that democracy is the most effective form of government?
I do, but it has to be a democracy that's fair. This democracy is, I don't consider us to have much of a democracy right now. They indict their political opponent. Free speech is shot because the press is very dishonest, I have to say. Even the way you fight me on simple questions like, the border and this, you fight me so much. And I'm saying, why are you fighting me? When I first ran, the approval rating of the media was very high, and now it's very low. It may be below Congress, which is pretty hard to believe. People understand what's going on. We need a media that's free and fair, and frankly, if they don't have that, it's very, very hard to straighten out our country.
Did you feel as president you had enough power, though? If you were reelected, would you try to find ways? For example, there's a report you're looking into firing potentially people within the federal government who aren't necessarily perceived to be loyal. Would you need more power?
Well, just so you understand, that's what the Democrats do, okay? They do it in spades.
Would you do that?
They do it at a level that you wouldn't believe. I mean, nobody's ever done. No, I wouldn't do that. I want great people, whether they're Republican or Democrat. I want great people. But I want people that love our country, not people that hate our country.
Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think it's good. I think we did.
We
did a lot.
Is there any scenario by which, because Ron DeSantis says if he were elected, he'd have 2 terms and you'd only have 1 more term. Is there any scenario by which you would seek a 3rd term in office?
No. Just so you understand, when DeSantis says that, that means he's not your man. He's not your man anyway because he's a very untalented guy, and he's proven that. He started out, everybody was talking to him. After I worked him over a little bit, he's gone down the tubes. I think he's going to end up being number 3 or 4. He just had a poll today. He was number 4. And by the way, the one that was number 2 was 59 points behind. So, it's very interesting. But when somebody says 8 years, we need 8 years, no. In 6 months to a year, many of the problems, almost all of the problems that you and I have just spoken about will be solved.
Look at that. Look how he said that. That shit was so cold. People like DeSantis is like, oh, we need 2 terms and we'll get everything done. Trump's like, bitch, I had that shit done in 24 hours. Fuck is they talking about?
Anybody that says they need 8 years, you don't want that person.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really appreciate it.
Fuck you, Mrs. Bitch.
We went all around the horn today, and I appreciate it
did.
very much.
Good luck for many years.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me a little extra time.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated
Get
about
this freaking dude who's wearing a skin mask the fuck off my screen. Alright, hold up. Oh shit, I just watched that live with y'all. I didn't see that before I watched it, so everything, my reaction was completely organic and all that shit. I like organic things. We in this inorganic war in the Matrix, so you gotta be organic with certain things. But let me see, man. Real quick, I'll just play my video on Trump and explaining the whole jab thing, because a lot of people gave him shit over that, but I feel like he really explained that perfectly. And I was saying the same shit he's saying for years now, and I had to make the video because it's like proving me right almost. Like, look, I've been telling y'all this, and people are like, oh, fuck that. He did a jab. He did a jab. He did a jab. Like, man, y'all just don't get it, bro. This shit ain't. Trump and them can't come out here and talk like we talk. He would be killed already. He can't come out here and fucking, guys, they're drinking baby blood. He can't fucking do that. All right? You think he's going to get this far in the swamp by doing shit like that? fucking drinking blood. Like, dog, they'd kill him right in the middle of his fucking speech. Relax. All right, understand this political chess they be playing. This is what I call it now. So hold up, let me pull this up. And it's uploaded on my channel though, but I do want to play it for this. Just for the people that watch it on the playback, they can have something decent that goes with that. But he just did one with Megyn Kelly. I gotta finish the Megyn Kelly shit, and I'll probably be doing another Trump video. But there is some more videos I'm doing. I got some cold shit that I got coming out. So stay tuned for that. Let me see, is this on the screen? All right, let's get this going. Yep, and I was walking down the neighborhood the other day, and somebody had a Trump picture in their car right there. You know. Yeah, they got the Donald Trump right there. Y'all see that?
Crucial 13, you all appreciate it. Shout out to you.
Get crucial.
I'm hungry. I need some bacon.
Look at this. Look at this. This is the city I'm in right now. All right, so a lot of people is, you know, mad at Trump, the way the vax rolled out and all that type of stuff. And I've been telling y'all for a few years now exactly what you're about to hear in this interview. He's about to explain this shit all the way. We're about to take a look at it. Real quick, that is actual footage of Joe Biden falling downstairs. And right before we start, just for YouTube purposes, I gotta say I support it. Okay, I support the vax over the 10-year lockdown that Joe Biden was planning. I support it because it wasn't mandated. Okay, so now remember, if I come out here in these videos and say they're poisoning us and all this type of shit, I'm gonna get a strike. So you guys have to play along here a little bit. Understand that we're actually in the field. We know what they're going to censor. We know what they're not going to censor. Like I told my people in the chat, I did a video called Dark City, and I swear to God, none of it had anything to do with vaccines or anything like that. But a literally 2-second part in the video that's like 17 minutes in the fucking video, the dude that I'm playing on the screen talks about a vaccine. But it's not COVID. It's not anything like that. But YouTube is so much on my ass, they scoured this video, found that little part, and gave me a channel strike. I had to hit them up and be like, look, I'll edit out that part. The thing they're talking about isn't about COVID and all that. And they ended up letting the video go back up when I edited out the part. So y'all got to understand that we can't be just talking reckless out here like this. This shit getting real spooky. All right, but here go the video. Just for YouTube purposes, let's get that one out the way and let's get into it.
For years, you've been saying that the reason you didn't fire Anthony Fauci was because he'd been there for a long time, that you would have taken heat, that it would have created a firestorm, quoting your words. Then for the first time in May...
I also said I didn't listen to him too much.
I'm getting there. But then in May, you started saying, well, he's a civil servant, so I couldn't technically. The truth is, though, not only did you not fire Fauci, who is loathed by many millions of Republicans in particular, but also some Democrats.
By the way,
you made him a star. You made him a star. This is the criticism of you, that you made him the face of the White House coronavirus task.
You think so?
That he was out at every presser, that he was running herd for the administration on COVID, and that you actually gave him a presidential commendation before you left office. Wouldn't you like a do-over on that?
I don't know who gave him the commendation. I really don't know who gave him the commendation.
Presidential commendation. One went out to Mark
Somebody
Miller,
probably handed him a commendation. But let me just tell you about Fauci. Fauci was very important in the Biden administration, much less important. If you know, he didn't want to stop China. He wanted to let everyone come in from China. I stopped it. I overrode it. I overrode many of the things he did. He was much less important to me. Now, with that all being said, he's been there for years. He was respected. He lost a lot of the respect because of COVID.
And keep in mind, with all the Republican snakes on Donald Trump's team at that time, he don't know. He's the president for the first time. He don't know the swamp is where he's at. I mean, he knows that, obviously, but obviously didn't know how deep it was, seeing how his own team turned on him in the end and stuff like that. But remember that he's taking a lot of advice from these people, and I'm surprised he actually got as much done to reduce whatever Fauci was doing that he ended up being able to do. Remember in the beginning when the whole government is like, oh, everybody be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. Trump's like, hold up, what are we so afraid of? Like, chill out. You know what I mean? He was completely bucking against that whole government scare job that they was doing.
But he was respected. And on COVID, if you know what I did, I let the governors run their states. And many of the governors opened up their states. Some of them didn't. Florida, by the way, was closed. But if you take a look at Henry McMaster, he had his state, South Carolina, open. You take a look at South Dakota, take a look at Tennessee. A lot of the states were not closed. And it's the federalist system. I allowed the governors to do that. I also allowed Democrat governors to do that, but I don't think none of them did it.
Wouldn't you like to go back and try to clip his wings? This guy was pushing mask mandates on us. He wanted the most extreme measure at every turn.
Okay, look, I'm not one that blames a system that if you're civil service or if you have some other protection that you can't get fired, because I've done things that are a lot worse than that.
You're big on the firing.
So yeah, I fired a lot of people. I fired Comey. And that was one of the great firings. I fired Comey, and then I fired a lot of other people in the FBI, and they were great firings because the deep state, and they were at work, and they were not good people. But I was not a big fan of Fauci. If you look at Ron DeSanctimonious, this guy said the greatest things. I can give you articles that Fauci's great, he's wonderful, we love him, we don't do anything without Fauci. This went on for months.
But he didn't listen to Fauci.
Oh, he did 100%. Look,
he shut down Florida.
He shut down Florida
for a month.
Oh, he shut it down for a lot longer. He shut down the beaches. He shut down the roads. He shut down a hospital. He was shutting down everything. He also had long lines of people getting the jab, as he called it. Let's all go get the jab. The guy tried to change history in Florida. Now, eventually Florida was open, but a lot of these other governors didn't shut down at all. South Dakota didn't shut down. McMaster, South Carolina, didn't shut down. Tennessee, there are states that didn't shut down at all.
Now, some people may say, well, Trump came out and advocated for the jab. Well, that's a lot different than, directing everybody here's where we're going to go get it and all this other type of stuff and, pushing and pushing. What he said was, it's not mandated. If you don't want to get it, you don't have to get it, at a time where the Democrats was mandating it, saying, hey, everybody go get it. And not only that, they were shaming people who didn't go get it. Watch, you about to hear Trump say this. Remember, this is political chess, okay? The first piece, and Trump's about to get into this, was Biden saying that, oh, we ain't gonna find a cure for this for like 10 years. 10 years is gonna be people going to get tested and all this stuff, and then they're gonna be found positive, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of bodies racking up. So what Trump do say, let's roll out this, jab. Let's kill this 10-year little plan that he got. Put it out there. Now the next move from them would be, okay, let's infiltrate them jabs. Let's put some. We can't even get into that. But I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of the vax. I'm a fan of all that type of stuff. Okay, go get one.
They probably did the best job.
But Ron DeSantis was under a lot of pressure, especially given the population, the age of a lot of Florida's citizens.
I'm not trying to blame anybody, but he should say, I closed it down. Eventually we opened it, but I closed it down. But I gave him the right to keep it open. If he wanted to, I let the governors make the determination as to whether or not to close it down.
But let me ask you this, because this is the number one question I ask my audience. What would you like me to ask President Trump? These are your fans.
Okay.
And that's the key right there, is Trump did say you do not have to shut down nothing. You can keep it open.
This is the number one question they wanted me to ask you. That you shut the country down for 6 weeks in spring of 2020. Operation Warp Speed.
Excuse me.
Rushed through.
I didn't really.
Let me ask the question.
Megan,
this is my audience's question. I got to get it out.
But I let the governors shut down. Some did and some didn't.
Okay.
Some didn't shut down at all.
Operation Warp Speed, though. Yeah. That was on the vaccines. They were rushed through. They have helped, but also hurt a lot of people. And your White House actually supported mask mandates. So wouldn't you like a do-over on any of that?
Look, when this came in, nobody knew what the hell it was. It sounded like an ancient, pandemic. You thought that was from 200 years ago or from 1917. We never thought you'd have a pandemic. Nobody had any idea. We got word that bad things were happening in China, right around the Wuhan clinic. And I was the one that said it was in the Wuhan clinic.
Now, a lot of people forget this, that when he was calling this out from the beginning, calling it all out, they always forget, oh, but he said, get the jab. Like the big tech media isn't going to censor you for saying anything that opposes that type of shit. Yeah, you got to play along for a little bit. Notice in my videos, I got to say everything I'm saying is bullshit. Just so the shit could go. I've been banned so damn much, videos taken down so much, they won't let you talk like that. You got to peep game. Y'all got to be critical thinkers here. Now, when Donald Trump is saying, oh, this shit come from China, peep game. He's telling you they unleashed the shit. So there are some conspiracy theorists who say, well, the thing ain't real at all. It's just not real. But the people who really understand this type of shit knows it is real and it got unleashed. Not only unleashed, but they put a spike protein in it to make it worse than what it was. So when you got presidents like Biden and them saying, oh, we're going to have a dark winter for 10 years, it's going to be lockdowns and all this other type of stuff, these people who playing political chess, they know what's coming. They like, oh, shit, this shit's about to ravage through the country, so we going to have to do something. You want 10 years of that where they say, oh, we can't find one, but everybody's dying? Or do you want them to put out this cure, and some people end up messing with them or whatever like that, but the rest of the people who already is thinking like us are given the option to not take it. It's not mandated. And see, if you're a real critical thinker, you would notice that when they first rolled these out, the liberals and the leftists was like, oh, I don't trust that. I don't trust that. Even Jimmy Kimmel and them coming out saying, I don't trust this because this come out under Trump. Not too long after that, they're like, hey, yeah, take it. Hurry up. And if you don't take it, you're a super spreader. Take this thing. So that should let you know if you're a critical thinker and you really up on this political warfare, that somewhere along the line, they infiltrated some shit, put whatever they wanted up in there, and then was like, okay, now they're good. Think about this.
And, I stuck with it, and it was absolutely. It came out of the Wuhan clinic. But you take a look, and what we did was, this was brand new. Nobody knew what the hell it was. There's dust. Somebody said there's dust coming in from China, and it's killing people in Italy, and it's killing people in France, and it's going to kill people here. And by the way, I shut it down to China. That was a big move. I saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives by doing it. But honestly, I don't blame a lot of people because nobody knew what it was. Now we do understand it somewhat. Nobody really understands it even now fully. But nobody knew what COVID was, and it wasn't even a name. I called it the China virus. I still do. I call it the China virus. It came out of China. They call it COVID and COVID-19. As far as the vaccine's concerned, you had the original COVID, and the vaccine had an impact on that. And there are some people, I will tell you, some friends of mine that are Democrat, I think they voted for me, but they're Democrat, very smart people, top people. They say, I don't understand one thing. Why don't you talk more about the vaccine? It was one of the greatest things you've ever done. Now think of that. They say to me, and I say, I'm not going to talk about it one way or the other. First of all, no mandates. I don't want mandates. I never had mandates. Florida sort of had a mandate because they were giving the vaccine. They were demanding everybody take the vaccine. It's another thing.
Now, you see, just keep that in mind. No mandates. That means if you don't believe in taking this stuff, and I do believe in taking it, take it. See, I'm on my Trump shit. I know how to play the game. You know what I'm saying? Take it. Okay? But if you don't want to take it, don't take it. And it's like the people that weren't going to take it anyway are outraged that all these liberals are taking it. Like, why do you care? Who cares? These same people are going to call you a super spreader and all this other type of stuff. Like, you really care that they taking this shit. That is so-called, killing everybody and all this other type of shit, which I don't believe, okay? Playing the game. Hey, get it. Because guess what? If I don't talk like this and say, go get it, I don't get to talk at all, okay? But some of y'all be thinking like conspiracy theorists too much. And I'm a conspiracy theorist myself, but I'm saying like, you think like these people who are in them positions of power where they censor and they got control over a lot of stuff, you think they can talk like our dumb ass? We're coming out talking about fucking blood. We're talking about they're doing this, they're doing that, ritual this, ritual that. You think these people can just say that and still walk around these people and amongst these people? You think that's how that works? Boy, Donald Trump have been dead 2019 had he been talking like us when he seen this shit coming along and all that. they'd have been killed him. And the funny thing is those who can discern, those who actually got critical thinking skills, knows that when you really peep what Donald Trump be saying, he do be talking about a lot of this shit. He just can't say it as clear as our dumbass do, which gets us fucking banned off social media and all this type of shit. We say all the shit that gets us deplatformed, and we expect him to do that. He's trying to really play this political game to get a one-up up in there, and you think he's supposed to be talking like us, knowing that they would deplatform him. Guess what? They did deplatform him, so he knows more than even us.
But no mandates, no anything. I didn't demand anybody take it. But I have people on the other side, not my side, although probably there's some on my side too. They said, you saved 100 million people because I got it done in 9 months as opposed to 5 years to 12 years. A lot of people.
You're proud of it.
No, I'm not proud of it. I'm saying what Democrats think.
So have I not been saying this all along? I might even delete a channel. I made a lot of videos like this that got taken down. Okay? Showing that Joe Biden said, oh, we're going to have dark winters and all this, and 10 years of lockdowns and 10 years. This is very serious, guys. We ain't going to find a vax for 10 years. Trump just rolled it out. Like, nope, you ain't about to do that. And at first, all the Democrats were saying, we don't trust this. We don't trust this. Then why, not too long after that, when they probably gonna tamper with some shit, now they're like, okay, now we do trust it. Then shortly after that, I gotta be careful with what I'm saying here.
Democrats.
I get it. I mean, and I'm not somebody who denies some of the good that the vaccines did. I lived through that too. But of course, a lot of people have been vaccine injured. And that's one of the questions. Those people are mad that they were rushed through and that they can't sue.
Well, I never gave mandates, and people have to make up their own, make their own decision, as far as I'm concerned. Now, some places had mandates, very strong mandates, largely Democrat governors and probably some Republicans, et cetera, et cetera. But there are Democrats that say, why aren't you talking about that? It's one of the, they really believe strongly. One said, you said, and this is very smart people, they said, you saved 100 million people worldwide. In 1917, it could have been as much as 100 million. It ended the First World War because all the soldiers were dying of this horrible disease of 1917.
And what he means by saving all these lives, right? Because over 10 years, now remember, before they found these vax or whatever, people was having to go get tested, and everybody was found out positive. So you would have to be like, you don't, and I can't talk too clearly on this, but you don't know what's going on with these testings and shit like that. Why is everybody just popping up with this shit? You know what I mean? So this would have been going on for 10 years. The body count would have been rising, or some people think the numbers were spiked and all that type of stuff. I mean, use your own brain, with this type of stuff. Nothing in this video is fact. It's all entertainment at the end of the day. But you either have saved 100 million people's lives or however many lives over the course of 10 years, or you roll out these vaccines and then the people that really want to get it, not everybody was affected by it, by the way, but if some people, bodies react kind of weird to it or whatever, I'm not saying nothing's wrong with it. I'm saying go get it, whatever. Playing the game, Trump, salute. But you either gonna have that or you're gonna have 10 years of this where you go into the hospital and you don't know what they doing. And again, for the 50th time, he did not mandate it. So if you didn't want it, you don't have to get it. And that's one thing I don't get is the people who didn't get it anyway are mad that people went and got it. Like, were you mad that people was going to get the flu shots or all this type of stuff? Like, I might not get it, but what the hell? There's people that buy into this shit, and the people that buy into it are most likely going to criticize you for not getting it. They're most likely going to tear apart your name. They're going to call you all type of bad slurs and stuff like that. So what do you care anyway? These same people categorize y'all who are anti-vax or something like that in the same category as racists and bad people, Hitler and shit like that, okay? They want to go get this shit, who cares?
It actually ended the First World War. The soldiers were dying. They was on the lines, they're fighting, and they're dying of this horrible disease. They said, you might have saved 100 million people, 50 million people. Why aren't you talking about it? I said, I'm not talking about it. But what I did do is I got something done for that specific thing. I also got Regeneron, and I got a lot of therapeutics done, which were great. I also got the robes and the leather and the rubber and all of the different things, the ventilators. We did a tremendous job, and it's never you know, they appreciated what I did with the economy. I got a lot of good marks on economy. I got a lot of good marks on a lot of things. Rebuilding the military, getting rid of ISIS, the biggest tax cuts in history.
Supreme Court.
I never got, I think, the credit that I deserved on COVID. And I'll tell you the way I look at it. It came in and nobody knew it was. We have to put ourselves back then. I had a meeting and we had a lot of professionals in the Oval Office. They say, sir, something bad is happening in the world. I said, what's that? And they said, people are dying. They're dying in China, in this area. And there was pictures of body bags all over the place, black body bags, satellite pictures, and they were all over. I said, that's strange. And then they'd have another meeting the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and all of a sudden, they had something where the first person died in the United States, and then another.
Yeah.
And then it died. Then they started dying all over Italy and all over Europe. Nobody really knew what it was, Megan.
And look, people that know my channel, you know I support just being your own doctor. If you was eating healthy, you was living clean and all that stuff, you wouldn't need none of this shit. All right, so that's before anything. Anybody that know my channel know that's before anything. But when we're putting ourselves in the shoes of these politicians who got to play this dirty game, what else do you expect? This is political chess. A lot of y'all forgot how the world was before these backs rolled out. It was about to get spooky. And yes, if something's harming people, of course, if you're a human being, you ain't gonna condone it at the end of the day. And I gotta say it all, you know, clear, blunt, straightforward like that, because people have a hard time seeing between the lines and critical thinking and stuff like that. But seeing how they took this dude off Twitter, they took down apps that he created right away. They went after Parler, if y'all remember that type of stuff. They took him, they censored him. So if you still gonna be in this game or whatever like that, you think that after you're being taken down, deplatformed, and everything you say is spun against you to make you look like an evil dictator or something, you would think he'd get smart and start playing the game a little bit, you know, more. But then here go the thing is, he was already playing it the way he was playing it, but even playing the game too, he was doing such good that they had to keep coming after him. You think this witch hunt is for no reason, all these indictments, all this shit, you think these people are just going after him for no reason? I mean, look what they was able to do during the whole pandemic, so-called, and all that, and I support it. I say go get jab, go get everything, booster, all that shit. I support it. But look at what they was able to do during the election. All right, they was able to, because of this emergency, they were able to bend a couple rules to make this election sway in their favor. So you got to see exactly what happened during this. All this shit that he was doing was combating that, because in the beginning he seen that, oh shit, they about to pull some shit with this 2020, you know. And I'm not saying nothing in this video is fact, but I'm just looking at it from, you know, that perspective or whatever. But I say go get the jab. I say salute to everybody involved, man. You know, we can't talk like that. But please, people that's watching this video, please have a discerning mind. Please be able to have critical thinking. Let me know what y'all think of in the comments. I ain't woke, I'm up.
Crucial 13, you all appreciate it. Shout out to you.
All right, so yeah, we about to end this off. I just wanted to play that Trump interview, and then I feel like that video added on to it or whatever. So yeah, on the playback. Salute everybody that pulled up. So yeah, man. At the end of the day, I wonder how this election is gonna play out. It looks like they're really gonna, you know, because with these leftist platforms, the same ones that censored him and tried to really go against him, they really found out that he got a strong ass fan base, and they like, all right, we playing with fire here. Let's try to win some of these people back, and they might let him win. Who knows? Yeah, Joe Biden fell down them stairs so much. You know, you can only hope that he broke his fucking neck, but I don't know. It's all entertainment. But yeah, it's looking like the leftist platforms are starting to put Trump on there. Even the Rhino Republican platforms, the ones that turned on him and said, oh, he's tripping for the election, calling out the election, all that shit. Now they even trying to get back on board, you know. So they might be getting ready for another Trump administration, man. I don't know. If they don't, if Trump get robbed again, I guarantee them liberals don't got more guns than them conservatives, boy. if this all entertainment, I'm just saying, I don't want civil war in this country, so don't play with Trump like that, man. Nothing was done about that 2020, but I don't think they're that stupid to try that again. Maybe they are. Maybe that first election fraud was softened up the country. They just wanted to see what would happen, or not saying like that's the whole reason they did it, because obviously they did it because they got all these human traffickers that was in trouble and all that shit. But I'm saying maybe they saw that there wasn't too much pushback, and they're like, ooh, we could get away with this. So I don't know. Whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's gonna be some shit in this country, whether Donald Trump win or not. If he wins, it's gonna be a lot of them getting pulled out. All right. So yeah, man. There's a lot of people that want blood, man. I ain't mad at them, even though I'm on like a frequency where I don't want to really engage in no war and shit like that. But we got to call it down the middle, bro. These people is not about to have this shit, and I got to call it down the middle to say I understand why they doing this type of shit. The whole country is turning liberal. Not only liberal, they're turning far left. You can't even define what a woman is. This lady up there that was just talking to Donald Trump, the NPC, she can't even define a woman on her own platform, and she's talking about she care about women's rights when it comes to abortion. It's the only time they care about it, when they can get their little AC supply and all that type of shit, man. All right. So whatever, just like Nando said, he wants blood. So do the Democrats, but they want adrenochrome. They want, oh shit, I just said it. Whoops. That's what a conspiracy theorist would say. They want blood too. All right. So there's two different types of wars going on here. Why'd I say that? All right. But yeah, man, I'm gonna holler at y'all. Definitely salute. Stay tuned for some more videos. Check out some of my latest videos if y'all ain't seen. And yeah, I think I'm going live tomorrow, but it's gonna be about some more like we going into the whole demonology and all that type of shit. We about to really, a lot of people like to talk about demons and have no experience in that field. They never even ran into a real demon and stuff like that. And I like to really put people on to how these things are hiding and where they're hiding at, so you could point them out and be like, oh shit, that motherfucker was there. Like, yep, they're there. In the room with you right now, they're there. Alright? So yeah, we about to go into that shit tomorrow. I'm gonna bring Jacqueline up. I got a few of my boys in the chat right now too. Clip and Nando. If y'all want to pull up and talk about some of this shit, definitely inviting y'all. Salute Rebel Rose. You gonna want to run this back. We about to end this off though. It's a good one too. It's going through the Trump live and all that type of shit. And yeah, this was a good one. Just Trump just had an interview today, so I felt like going through it because they was hiding it in the algorithm. So felt like doing this. But yeah, man, much love everybody in the chat, dude. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments too on all my videos. Corey Rapper, salute for staying tuned. All right, much love to all y'all, fool. I'm out.